Day. The Grizzlies get clobbered in New York. Should we be concerned? They beat up on all the bad teams, they play the Knicks, and they get beat up themselves. We'll discuss that on the program today. An honor for one of the Grizzlies who's hoping to hear his name called Thursday as a reserve for the Western Conference All-Star team. We'll talk some Memphis Tigers basketball, another weekly award for P.J. Haggerty. The Tigers getting set to head to New Orleans for a game with Tulane on Thursday. We have other NBA news, other college basketball news, including the AP Top 25 and the coaches' polls that came out yesterday after we wrapped up, and Memphis taking a huge leap. So at least the writers and the coaches are looking at Memphis and that win over UAB as impressive. Of course, other teams lost around them, so that helped. But more impressed than the metrics say after that win over UAB. Connor O'Gara joins us at 7:25. We'll get his thoughts on the just completed college football season and look ahead to the early thoughts of 2025. We will have Humdinger's Trivia. That'll come your way at approximately 8:05. And then about 9:45, our last segment of the show, Ross Tucker will join us. He joins us annually to talk Super Bowl. He's got a lot going on. You watch him and you hear him all over the place as an analyst for college football, former NFL offensive lineman, and host of the Ross Tucker podcast, Ross Tucker, at 9:45. Pretty dramatic last night in the TGL, if you're into that. We got that. Also, a scary scene at Cameron Indoor Stadium last night between Duke and NC State. That's all coming up in the program today. Plus your calls and texts on the Sissy's Log Cabin listener lines at 901-360-8255. That's the lineup for this Tuesday. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Yeah. Better than the Grizzlies.
Yeah, boy, last night was a rough one. Last night was that was one you just kind of, I guess, probably just flushed that one away and never to speak of it again. It got ugly in a hurry.
Do you think that team arrived in New York on Friday and went out and partied, and they were not in their right minds as far as ready to play the New York Knicks? Or are the Knicks that much better than the Grizzlies, which is a lot more concerning than the former, if that is the case?
I have no idea what they did when they got to New York or whatever. I think it was a...
Teams have tied one on from here. Once in a while that's happened with teams. I'm not saying that happened with the Grizzlies, but my gosh, you go to the Apple, there's so many things to do. I don't know.
No, I mean, it very well could be a possibility. The thing, we have seen turnovers be an issue in other games this year. Last night, they just took it to a whole new level, and it was just sloppy basketball. And, you have 26 turnovers in an NBA game. It's going to be tough to win that game. And a lot of those led to easy, fast break buckets. And it just ballooned from there. And it was just a bad, for the most part, because again, they didn't shoot the ball terribly. Like it was just they couldn't hold on to the basketball and just kept giving up easy bucket after easy bucket off of those turnovers. So it was just a bad night at the office.
7 Knicks in double figures scoring, 4 of the 5 starters. John Morant was minus 41, his plus minus. 16 points for Ja. So in front of the big Madison Square Garden audience, the star-studded crowd, and there were a lot of stars, they came out. Ja was awful. Tripp had 21 to lead the way, but really the whole team was awful. Here's a stat. This comes from your hustle partner, John Roser. The Grizzlies versus the top 3 teams in each conference. So the Rockets, they've played 3 times. They'll play them again on Thursday here at FedEx Forum in Memphis. Oklahoma City, the Celtics, and the Knicks. The Grizzlies are averaging 19.5 turnovers per game, giving up 30.1 points per game off those turnovers. So against the good teams, they have struggled protecting the basketball. I don't know what that is. Is it just lackadaisical? Is it just better talent? Is it the youngsters, Jalen Wells, and I don't know their numbers specifically, Zach Edey, a little bit more pressure when they're playing the better teams as opposed to the teams they just played and demolished? Like I said yesterday, the sign of a good team is you play a bad team and you destroy them. So you're a good team. But the sign of a great team is those that can beat the top teams in the league. And you're one of the better teams, and you're struggling to beat the top teams in the league. So I think this is more than just a trip to New York that went awry. I think there may be some underlying issues.
Well, again, I think the turnovers are an issue. There's no doubt turnovers are an issue. They've been an issue all year. You can look at those numbers just off the good teams. Much like the Tigers and their turnover issues, I mean, that is something that Taylor Jenkins and company have to figure out. Again, their turnover numbers will be up somewhat because of the pace they play. I mean, there's more possessions that they're going to have, number one team in pace in the league. So it's the number of turnovers is going to be up, but it can't be 26. I mean, it's just way too many. They've got to figure out a way to be able to play the fast pace, but still make sure you're taking care of the basketball. And especially the live ball turnovers that result generally in layups at the other end, those are killers. And there are way too many of those. A lot of last night, guys trying to throw passes that just don't need to be made. And some of it's trying to make the fancy pass, the no-look pass, instead of just the simple pass. Like Desmond Bain, usually I kind of trust him with the basketball. Last night, I don't know what Desmond Bain was trying to do, honestly. There was a few different times where it seemed like guys just weren't where he thought they were going to be or whatever, like miscommunication, all that stuff. I don't know. There looked like a lot of guys just not on the same page last night.
Why does that sound so familiar? Oh, yeah. We've talked about that with the Memphis Tigers so many times, and they cleaned it up in their win over UAB. But how many times have we talked about the Tigers? Hey, make the simple pass. Don't do the no-look thing and all. They always mirror each other. It's crazy how often the Grizzlies and the Tigers mirror each other, even though one's college and one's the NBA. But you're absolutely right. 26 turnovers is a joke. That's an absolute joke. Maybe they're trying too hard on the biggest stage in the most famous arena in the world. I don't know what the reason was, but they stunk up the joint. Hey, let me say hello to Elijah Seegers. Haven't welcomed him to the show before we continue with the Grizzlies. You watch the Grizzlies last night?
I watched a little bit of the game. I did not stay till the very end. It was a rough one. Very, very rough. I do think that it was just, a one-off thing. It was interesting, though. I turned to the Rockets-Celtics game afterwards, and the Rockets got a big win in Boston, and they were able to pull it out down the stretch. So when you're talking measuring stick, the Rockets winning in Boston is definitely interesting.
Well, it is, but the Grizzlies do have a win in Boston earlier this year. But you're right. The Grizzlies are battling the Rockets for second, and the former Grizzly Dylan Brooks goes for 36 points. They had Amen Thompson had 33, including the game winner. But Brooks hit 10 of 15 threes. Dylan Brooks went crazy. You're right. The Rockets get the win over the Celtics, 114-112, so they grab a one-game lead over the Grizzlies for second. But to your point, you say it's a one-off. The Rockets-Grizzlies Thursday night at FedEx Forum. Then you look ahead to what's next after that. The Grizzlies will play the Bucks. Do they have any games between Thursday and Sunday, or is that it?
No.
So the Bucks in Milwaukee, okay, certainly a decent team, right? Then the Spurs at home, and they've beaten Wemby a couple of times, but they'll get Wemby again. In Toronto, should win that game, you would think. Then the Thunder at Phoenix. Who knows, by February 11th, maybe the Suns have a different looking roster, which includes one Jimmy Buckets. Grizzlies then go to the Clippers. Grizzlies go to the Pacers. So I want to see if it's a one-off, because we've talked about this before earlier this year, that the Grizzlies had a bad record against the better teams in the NBA. And they've deposited and demolished all the mediocre to bad teams, which, again, I think is a good sign because you're not screwing up against the bad teams. You're not playing to the level of their competition. But you need to step it up against the better teams, which again brings up the whole, will they make any kind of move to better this roster if possible? I'm sure they're looking at all options. But I think that was eye-opening last night. I think it was a wake-up call to this team. They had a 6-game winning streak snap. They fall to 31-16. Maybe it's one of those games you just chalk it up to the Knicks having all their studs, all their starters. You know they play mega minutes. They're playing at home, and they just wallop the Grizzlies. Maybe it is a one-off. But then again, maybe there are some underlying problems.
Yeah, I don't think it's like, oh my gosh, the Grizzlies can't beat a good team.
Right.
Again, turnovers are an issue. There's no doubt that turnovers are an issue. It has been a problem all year long.
But you can't survive against better teams turning the ball over. You can survive against Utah, right?
Well, yeah. The Knicks are a really good defensive team. Thibodeau preaches defense, and they didn't even have to be good defense. Because generally the Grizzlies were just throwing them the basketball for a lot of those things. So to give up 83 points in the second half is inexcusable. But again, when you're just giving them a layup line because live ball turnovers, they got 31 fast break points, 28 second chance points, 70 points in the paint. If you're giving up those types of numbers, you're not beating teams. And most all of that starts with the turnovers. You're minus 22 in points off turnovers. These are not numbers that can be sustainable in winning basketball games. So, yes, I don't think there's any doubt that the turnovers are a concern. But I don't think this is like, oh, gosh, it's the end of the world. The Grizzlies have no chance to do anything against good teams.
No, it's not. But Ja's the one that has to step up. He is your star, and Ja has not had particularly good games against the elite of the NBA this year. And again, a minus 41. The turnovers are one thing, but that's your stud with a minus 41 plus-minus ratio. So that needs to be rectified very quickly. 143, 106, it wasn't even close. And that was one of the marquee games of the night. So you hate to not put your best foot forward when you're playing a game that's a marquee game. A game where a lot of people, even though it wasn't nationally televised, but a game that a lot of people were certainly curious about. The Grizzlies, red hot. The Knicks, we know that they are certainly top-heavy with that starting lineup. Tom Thibodeau does not care. He's playing those guys mega minutes. The Grizzlies were still without players. Santi returned. Aldama was back. Of course, Gigi's back. Still don't have Vince. Still don't have Marcus Smart, two of your better perimeter defenders. But until they come back, you got to play with the hand you're dealt. And so far, it's worked out pretty well for the Grizzlies. But against the better teams, and we'll see what happens Thursday against the Rockets at home. We'll see what happens in that game at Milwaukee, assuming Giannis plays. Some of the games that they've won against average to better competition, teams were missing some key players. Now, the Grizzlies also were without players, but some of those teams did not have their key players. And you can only, again, go with who you have, so it doesn't matter. Nobody's making excuses, but obviously the Grizzlies in the last couple of postseasons didn't have their full array. That's what matters, to have your full array of players in the postseason, and you got a shot. The Grizzlies have a shot, but is there something out there that can make it a better shot at getting the job done and winning? But last night was not good. It was good for Houston, and those teams will meet up on Thursday.
Who would have thought that in late January you'd have a night where Dylan Brooks makes more threes than the entire Grizzlies team?
An anomaly, and you know what that means for Dylan. In his mind,
he's confident for Thursday.
He's got the green light, baby.
Hey, Dylan, take 20. Take 20 of them on Thursday.
He may take 20 on Thursday. He may do that, but hey, give it up to Dylan. That was a great game, and Amen Thompson is turning into a hell of a player. They've drafted really well. These draft picks have come through for Houston. They're a fun team to watch. I said that before the season. That was one of the teams that I was looking at that was going to make a legitimate run. And last night they got a nice win out the Garden.
Couple of texts here on the Sissy's Log Cabin listen line. Ron says, being not focused and a lack of effort will not work against the elite team.
Yes.
Keith
Absolutely.
Says, the game started with horrible defense and turnovers. Ja was horrible right from the start. There's many times we play better with him off the floor. I don't know about him as a real superstar. Well, I don't think there's a whole lot of times where they play better with Ja off the floor.
No, but I think he's alluding to that. The record without Ja this year has been pretty good, but you want Ja.
Yes.
Because there's also been games where Ja, throughout his career, has saved the Grizzlies with incredible performances. But last night was horrible. He was awful. The team was awful. A couple of other notes before we take our first time out, and Connor O'Gara will join us on the other side. Speaking of the Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson Jr., who has been consistently good, has been on a nice run, named the Western Conference Player of the Week. 25.8 points per game is what he averaged as the Grizzlies went 4-0 this past week. 6.3 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.5 blocks per game, averaging 31.2 minutes. Again, not playing 38, 39, 40 like Jokic plays. Playing 31 minutes, putting up great numbers. There is no question, and this is nice to hear, especially this week, if they haven't made up their minds yet about Dagnow, if he hasn't made up his mind yet on who the reserves are going to be. I think they probably already know, but I like it that it's this week that Jaren Jackson Jr. is named the NBA Player of the Week because the announcement will come on Thursday. And I'm telling you, there should be a federal investigation, tongue-in-cheek, but if Jaren Jackson Jr. is not on that all-star team. I know there's a lot of worthy candidates, but when you have a team that's sitting in the top 3 in the West and he's putting up that numbers and he's been on a really hot streak, evident by that Player of the Week honor, he should be on the all-star team.
Yeah, there's no doubt he should be there. I mean, he now has a Player of the Week award. He's got the Defensive Player of the Month award that he's had this year. He's been absolutely incredible. He's had a terrific year and done everything they possibly asked. Offensively, defensively, he's been great on both ends. It's last year certainly I think helped Jaren a lot on the offensive end when he had to be the guy, and now he is that aggressive offensive player has carried over with those other guys out there, and he's showing that he's one of the best players in the league.
And then tell me if you've heard this before. Jimmy Butler suspended by the team, but this time suspended indefinitely. Yes, it's the third time that Jimmy Butler in recent weeks has been suspended. But now they're doing something that I and many of the people out there have called for. Suspend him indefinitely. Don't play the guy. What are you bringing him back to play him for? It doesn't make any sense. He wants to be traded. You're going to trade him. It's going to happen. You don't need that ruckus. You don't need that to be a headache for these other players who are out there trying to play basketball and win basketball games. Bam Adebayo, who had a big night last night, said, we're standing on business with or without Jimmy Butler. Look, they're friends with Jimmy, but they know that he's not part of the future. He's not part of the present. And so Miami finally makes the move and suspends him indefinitely. We'll see what ends up transpiring as far as a deal is concerned, but it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, talk about the last time with the 2-game suspension. Was surprised it wasn't longer, but I don't know if there's any rules about what they can and cannot do. But again, he doesn't want to be playing for them. You can't trust him in any way to actually try and play hard for you. So why not save the money and not have to pay him? And obviously they found another reason to suspend him, and now it's indefinitely. And we're only a little over a week away from the trade deadline, so it should all play itself out over the next 9 days or whatever.
All right, we're just scratching the surface. We got a lot to get to on the program, including Memphis Tigers basketball news, the polls that came out yesterday as the Tigers jump in the polls. Another weekly honor for P.J. Haggerty as the Tigers get set to head to New Orleans for a game on Thursday against Tulane. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about comments from Ed Scott made to Jeff Calkins about Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, and other things involving University of Memphis athletics. We got Humdinger's Trivia that'll come your way at 8:05. Ross Tucker is going to join us to talk Super Bowl at 9:45. But when we return, it's all about college football, putting a bow on the season with Connor O'Gara, the senior national columnist for Saturday Down South. Hey, everybody, best thing about a new year is getting something new to drive, so it makes sense to head to Olive Branch and All-Star Chevrolet, where all the Silverados are. Get $1,500 in extra savings when you trade in a 2011 or newer passenger car or light-duty truck. 1.9 financing on new Blazers, 2.9 with no payments for 90 days on a new Equinox. Yes, you can be payment-free until April because your good credit deserves it. Now, if you work in law enforcement, you're a first responder, healthcare worker, military, teacher, recent graduate, tack on another $500 off on top of everything else. So let's go. Nobody has the certified and the pre-owned like All-Star Chevrolet and Olive Branch. Everything from the pre-owned Silverados, Sierra trucks, Nissans, Toyotas, Fords, Jeeps. You got a beautiful red Corvette Stingray as well. If you've got any vehicle you want to sell, bring it to All-Star Chevrolet and Olive Branch. Get the most money back for it today. So together, let's drive to All-Star Chevrolet's Fresh Start sale. It's going on now in Olive Branch and online at allstarautogroup.com. You're tuned in to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
Shop, compare, and save from hundreds of experts to turn your dream home into a reality. We have everything to help you remodel, refresh, and beautify your home inside and out. So come on out to the home show of the Mid-South, January 31st through February 2nd at the Agri Center. You'll find special show pricing on kitchens, baths, patios, and landscaping, flooring, cabinets, windows, roofing. It's all at the home show of the Mid-South, January 31st through February 2nd at the Agri Center. Visit MemphisHomeShow.com. That's MemphisHomeShow.com.
Jenkins Floors and More invite you to their retail warehouse where they pass wholesale savings on to you. Jenkins Floors in Little Rock, Cleveland, Mississippi, and now open in Horn Lake at 2356 West Whitman Road. Specializing in flooring and carpeting, tile, plantation shutters, and blinds, Jenkins makes your life easy with a 2-week turnaround. Contractors, builders, or family projects, call 662-469-9350 for a free estimate. Owners Timmy and Rebecca Jenkins say hello to Sports 56 fans and look forward to your business.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good morning. Trying to build already coming in from West Memphis on 40 East here at the Hernando de Soto Bridge. Still moving at the moment up through South Haven as we check it out live on 55 northbound as that traffic builds up through South Haven coming in from DeSoto County into South Memphis. Hey, if your lawn needs a little bit of help, your solution is Lawn Solutions. Over 30 years experience. Call Lawn Solutions today at 867-5626 or go online to lawnsolutionsinc.net. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Now back to Sports 56 Morning on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
You know, I say the college football season is over, but it's never over. There's always news seemingly every day. There's big news. Jim Knowles with that news yesterday, which was stunning news. So it's great to have a guy like Connor O'Gara on all year long. He joins us every other week to talk college football. Today is no exception.
It's time to talk some SEC and college football. Joining Greg and Eli is Connor O'Gara from SaturdayDownSouth.com and SaturdayTradition.com. Here's Connor O'Gara with Greg and Eli.
He is the senior national columnist for Saturday Down South. He's the host of the Saturday Down South podcast. He is the one and only Connor O'Gara. You can follow him on Twitter at CJ O'Gara. It feels like we haven't spoken to you in a month. It's been a while. How are you?
Gentlemen, I'm good. You know, I just got back from a trip to Chicago with my daughter. I did the solo parents through the airport with a toddler experience. And let's just say I've grown. I feel like I've turned a new leaf. I'm a more mature person. I'm a more patient person. And I feel like I've got new perspective now in 2025.
Well,
Good for you.
Your doppelganger is making things like he's giving your name a bad name.
Yes, in some ways. And for those who don't know, the Liam Cohen doppelganger bit that is now running on, we're at like 4 years now that this has been going on. It's been a little bit tough. I've had to kind of respond to some texts like, hey, you know, could you go about an exit a little bit better? Can you just have a cleaner break for once? And then I always respond with, well, you know, it's an Irish exit. This is just kind of the way that we are. We're awkward about it. We don't know how to say, you know, our pleasantries and just be on our merry way. But with, like, in all seriousness, it is pretty cool to see Liam Cohen have an NFL head coaching job, somebody that has been really gracious with my time. There was even a story of, like, he randomly ran into my brother when he was on Ball State's campus. He was just playing with his kid. My brother and his wife were out for a jog, and they ran into him and talked to him for like 15 minutes. One time that happened a couple years ago. So, yeah, Liam has just always been extremely kind with his time, and I root for that guy's success. I understand, you know, there are a lot of Bucs fans, especially in my neck of the woods, that are upset that it went down the way that it did. They also wanted him to be their head coach as well. But crazy that in this wild sport of football, that Kentucky's offensive coordinator, after a relatively disappointing season, 12 months later is an NFL head coach. That's just kind of the world that we live in.
His Duval yesterday was way too creepy for me.
You know, it's a tough thing to say. Have you ever tried to say it? Because if you haven't, you don't really know. It's kind of one of those things where, like, you know, the old Detroit basketball chant that I'm not going to do on your airwaves because your listeners deserve better. But it's one of those things you think you have, and then until you open your mouth and actually try and do it, you don't realize how awkward it sounds. So I'm going to give Liam a pass. If he's dialing up looks that can maximize the ability of Trevor Lawrence once a can't-miss prospect, I think they will forgive a bad Duval. I think they will be just fine. But that wasn't the best look. I'll admit that. That's not his strength.
Well, what's interesting is that he's going from Tampa to Jacksonville, so the two closest NFL teams to where you live. I'm not sure if you asked your doppelganger to hook you up for any of the Tampa games when he was the OC, but now as the head coach at Jacksonville, you're going to have to make a road trip up to Jayville to see him, aren't you?
You know what? I probably won't. And that's not, you know, out of any sort of like, oh, you know, I'm obviously rooting for the guy and all that. I think Tampa is a half hour closer than Jacksonville, so technically he's a little bit further away. Like Jacksonville's about 2 hours from me. Tampa is an hour and a half. But you know, I will root from afar. Just Sundays in the fall are still very busy in the college football world. So that's probably not going to happen, at least not imminently. But you know, I do hope that he wins a bunch of games, and I continue to scroll through my Twitter feed and, you know, wonder if every other picture is a picture of me.
Plus, we know your real team, and that's Chicago. And the Bears go and get a head coach in Ben Johnson. You got to be happy with that.
You know, I couldn't be more happy, and it was kind of surreal. You know, talking to family members and whatnot this past weekend, who obviously have been living in Chicago for a very, very long time. And our takeaway, and, this is, I think, a relatable thing for any fan who has watched their team struggle for a long time, who has wondered, are we ever going to hire the person that everybody thinks that we should hire and go out and make the big splash? Because the Bears have never done that. Not in my lifetime, not post Mike Ditka, who was hired before I was born. And there is just this overwhelming feeling of, oh my gosh, they finally did it. They drafted the quarterback at number 1 overall that everybody says they can't miss. They finally got the right offensive mind, probably the best offensive mind that the Bears have had in franchise history, and he hasn't even coached it down yet. I mean, with all due respect to Matt Nagy, I know he's doing great things with the Chiefs because, of course, he would be with Pat Mahomes. But, yeah, it's a very surreal feeling. So my football fandom, despite the year of disappointment that was, it has reached very high levels these past couple weeks.
So we obviously have not talked to you since the playoff wrapped up with Ohio State bouncing back after losing to Michigan. They make their run through the playoff and get the national championship for Ryan Day. They went out, they spent the money, and in the end, it paid off for them. So despite the loss to Michigan, I guess Ryan Day can feel pretty darn good about this season.
Moral of the story, kids. If you have enough angst in your fan base and you get your boosters riled up enough because you just can't beat your rival, and then and on top of that, you can't even beat Mizzou in a bowl game, people will spend money to make sure that never happens again. Welcome to this day and age of college athletics. Yeah, look, I think that there is a lot to take away from what Ohio State did, what it means for the Big Ten, obviously. As far as the NCAA records are concerned, it's the first time that we've had consecutive Big Ten championships since the Lyndon B. Johnson administration when Michigan State went back-to-back. So from that standpoint, it's really important as we're about to usher in this new era where there could be 4 automatic bids to the college football playoff for the Big Ten and 4 for the SEC as well. About time that the Big Ten actually pulls its weight with that, and I can say that as a Big Ten graduate. But, yeah, I mean, I think Ohio State now in this copycat world is going to be the team that everybody looks at and goes, hey, if we just spend this amount of money, even in the revenue-sharing era, even if we spend this money with NIL, then we could still be a team like that. There are so few teams in college football that can actually replicate that, that would have enough angst to be able to fund that. So I don't think it's necessarily a model that a lot of people can replicate, but I do think that Ohio State winning the way that it did is a reminder we're going to have more grace with teams in the regular season, and I'm guilty of this too. Don't write them off after seemingly a devastating loss, because Ohio State and Notre Dame, obviously, were proof of that.
Connor O'Gara joining us on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest lines. Yeah, you're asking for patience from people. Nobody has patience. But really, when you look back at the season, Connor, and go back to the preseason, even though I think Georgia was the AP pick, Ohio State was second. And there was all kinds of injuries with Georgia, the situation with Connor Beck and all that. So really, when it came down to it, the team that most people thought was going to win it, basically because of that $20 million payroll, won it.
Yes and no. Think about this. In 19 of the last 20 years, the preseason AP number 1, that includes Georgia this year and the previous year as well, they fell short of winning a national championship. 19 of 20 years. Yet teams 2 through 5 in the preseason AP poll, they won 15 of those titles. Mm-hmm. Think about that. It pays to be talented, but to be not number 1. In this day and age of the internet, wherein an 8-month offseason can, I think, drive a lot of the conversation. People say, preseason rankings, they're irrelevant. I do think that they're relevant. I do think that they matter when it comes to how you build a roster, how you fuel motivation. I mean, the last title that Georgia won, Nolan Smith came on my show and was like, yeah, I made it all up that, that Kirby said we were going to go 7-5. And we had to do whatever we could to find that sort of motivation. And Ohio State, they had the motivation of the way that last year ended. And so from that standpoint, yes, they were number 2, and, they had a lot of people that were picking them to win a title, but they still had reasons for that internal motivation. Even to have reasons for that internal motivation post-regular season is still super rare. So, yeah, I mean, I do think there is something to be said for that. So in these way too early top 10, top 25s, whatever they are, I do want to be 2 through 5 and not wanting to be that number 1 team.
Who, as you look, and again, there still will be another portal window, all of that stuff that happened, but Who do you look at for next year as the favorites?
Texas. And I think Texas is going to get that conversation because of Arch Manning, but I'm actually more sold on Texas's defense than Texas's offense because they return so much production off of a unit that was fourth in the country in scoring and gave Ohio State everything it could handle. And all eyes will be on that season opener against Ohio State, that rematch of sorts. I mean, you're going to have like 4 of the 10 best players in college football playing in that game, which is just going to be awesome for the sport that we're getting to open the season that way. But Texas's defense is just loaded with dudes. Colin Simmons might be the best returning player in the SEC. Anthony Hill Jr. is awesome at middle linebacker. They get Trey Moore coming back. Michael Taft, the safety, was part of that controversial non-targeting call against Arizona State. He turned into an All-American. And they just have continuity there. So Texas is the team that I think deserves to be the favorite. They've been knocked on the door, consecutive playoff berths for Steve Sarkisian. He's totally rebuilt the culture of that program. They're the team that going into this year, they're going to have all the hype. And then Penn State. I mean, you spent $3 million on a defensive coordinator. People are talking, hey, is this going to be this the 2025 version of Ohio State? Can they sort of replicate that model despite the fact that James Franklin's 4-20 against AP top 10 teams? People will conveniently leave that out when talking about Penn State as a preseason national championship favorite.
Was there something up other than Penn State was able to offer more than Ohio State? Because it's hard for me to believe that Ohio State couldn't match that if they wanted to.
I've tried to look at it through this lens. If you're in that spot and you've already won the national championship, you already did what you set out to do, and you kind of look for the next challenge. Because if you don't, then people are going to criticize you, and you're probably, odds are you're going to end up getting fired. So instead of hanging around and, the head coaching market, if that's not what you aspire to be, you find your new challenge, and you find where there's also still a ton of talent, and you can go and make even more money and still be that coveted, in-demand coordinator. And there were rumors that Jim Knowles could end up at Oklahoma, back in the state where he was a defensive coordinator on Mike Gundy's staff for 4 years. And there were rumors that was going to happen, and that was imminent. But instead, Penn State comes in over the top and makes him an offer he can't refuse. And I do think there's something to be said for these coordinators, Chip Kelly being one of them, who ends up leaving that job at UCLA, where he would have been on the hot seat, every hot seat list in America, to take the Ohio State offensive coordinator job. People like to determine their next moves instead of having other people determine it for them. And I think that probably was at the root of why Jim Knowles, who is being paid very, very well, ultimately decided to move on from a national championship team and go to Penn State.
Well, it's interesting because 3 of the final 4 teams had their defensive coordinator leave. Now, it's different circumstances, but 3 of those 4, you think, hey, everything's good and they would be able to pay these guys, but 3 of the 4 defensive coordinators left.
And that's, and Al Golden getting that job with the Bengals. Al Golden was tremendously important for what Notre Dame did. Notre Dame does not make a national championship without Al Golden. I cannot emphasize that enough. And he will definitely be missed. And that's something that Marcus Freeman, as great as a defensive mind as he is, that's a key spot that he's going to have to replace. But, yeah, it was kind of a defensive-fueled year in college football. I felt like defenses were the star of the show. And I felt like, in a year in which we're kind of looking around going, hey, where's that offensive stud? Where are these great quarterbacks? And, kind of fitting that the Heisman Trophy winner even was, a guy that plays on the defensive side of the ball half the time, and Travis Hunter. So, yeah, I just felt like it was more of a defensive-focused year, and clearly people recognize the value of those 3 defensive coordinators. Go figure that Pete Kwiatkowski, the Texas defensive coordinator, is the one of those 4 that ends up staying. And I think he should have the best defense in all of college football next year. And who knows, maybe his time to be able to get one of those other jobs is going to be coming up soon at the end of 2025.
We got plenty of time over the weeks and months ahead to talk about next year and kind of look into the crystal ball. But right now, who would you say is the coach that has the most pressure on him in the SEC going into next year? And maybe who are the coaches that are going to be on the coaching hot seat?
Brent Venables has to come up. And I understand Oklahoma fans still want to win the breakup with Lincoln Riley. They do. And maybe they're winning it. Maybe they're not. But Brent Venables, despite the fact that a week before Oklahoma officially joined the SEC, got this new extension that bumped up his buyout to over $30 million. He's the one that, he's coming off of losing seasons in 2 of his first 3 years in Norman. That's not tolerated there. And you can have all the support in the world from Joe Castiglione, the athletic director, but reality is you overhauled your offense after a historically disastrous year, knowing you need this to work out. Otherwise, you're going to be fired. And I have a piece that's coming out today. It probably already came out, actually, for Saturday Down South about how as great as Jim Knowles would have been for Oklahoma and that defense to allow Brent Venables to take a step back into that CEO-type role, similar to what Ryan Day did by hiring Chip Kelly to be his offensive play caller, they need offensive help. And they overhauled that offense by bringing in Ben Arbuckle, the 29-year-old offensive coordinator from Washington State, as well as the package deal of John Mateer, quarterback, coming over, kind of following the New Mexico State to Vanderbilt model. Go figure that's the plan that Brent Venables had in place. But they have to figure out that offense. Otherwise, I think he is going to be out of a job at the end of year 4, especially with how much Texas continues to rise through the ranks in the SEC.
All right, Connor, thank you for a great year, and we're going to continue, of course, as we have you all year long. We really appreciate that. There'll be a lot going on, from spring football to portal news and who knows what else. Make sure for all things college football, you're following Connor on Twitter at CJ O'Gara, and more importantly, you're reading him at Saturday Down South. You're listening to that Saturday Down South podcast. He's one of the best in the business covering college football, and we love having him on our program every other Tuesday. Connor, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Gentlemen, appreciate it.
Thank you now. Good stuff, as always, from Connor O'Gara.
He is right. That whole the Duval thing is can be awkward, and I don't know how to say it properly. I just know that Liam Cohen's was way creepier than anyone I've ever seen. Part of it was his eyes, like and the way he kind of moved his head while doing it. That just didn't. He needed to practice more. And somebody needed to be like, no, that's not it. That one's not it. Do not do that one up there, because that's not going to come off well.
He didn't win the press conference?
He didn't win that part of it. Like, I don't know. Like, the other stuff, whatever. But I don't know. That was like, they were mesmerizing, and like, I was like freaked out. I was like, whoa, that's not, I don't know what is right. I know that's not right.
All right. I know what's right. We need to take a break. Pay some of the bills. We'll be right back. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
We are Real Sports Talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Sports 56 and 95 FM.
Briggs Powder Coating for a beautiful finish every time. Briggs Powder Coating specializes in automotive, ornamental, residential, and industrial coating. With 2 conveyor lines and the largest batch ovens in the Mid-South, Briggs can accommodate all of your powder coating needs. Locally owned and operated since 2002, Briggs Powder Coating will customize a beautiful finish just for you. Drop by or call to see how Briggs Powder Coating can bring color to your life. 901-367-2771 or BriggsPowderCoating.com.
For 75 years, Americans have been falling in love with Volkswagen, and we've gossip Volkswagen Germantown. Hey, what's up over there, Marty McMahon?
New Year means big savings. Take your pick lane from a 2025 Jetta Sport or 2024 Volkswagen Taos SE, $249 a month.
Jetta or Taos, $249 a month. What else you got?
2024 Tiguan S or 2025 Jetta SE, $279 a month.
Tiguan S or Jetta SE, $279 a month?
That's right. And all 2024 Atlas SELP edition, $5,000 off MSRP.
So get to Gossip Volkswagen Germantown and ask for Marty McMahon.
Remember, your future is what you make it.
That's Gossip Volkswagen Germantown, 7420 Winchester Road. Online, gossipvwg.com. to Sports 56 Mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
I didn't get a chance to ask Connor. We'll do it, I'm sure, the next time he's on. But he put together on Saturday Down South is way too early. Top 10 SEC quarterbacks going into the 2025 season. Number 10, Taylon Green from Arkansas, who we saw in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl game. Number 9, Gunnar Stockton at Georgia, who replaced Carson Beck, who's now at Miami. Austin Simmons at Ole Miss, number 8. He replaces Jackson Dart. Marcel Reed, number 7, Texas A&M. You have at number 6, you got Nico Amaleava. Iamaleava. Gosh, that's such a tough name. Number 5, Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt. Some may say that's low on the list. Number 4, Arch Manning, Texas. Number 3, Lenoris Sellers, South Carolina, who had the breakout year for the Gamecocks. Number 2, DJ Lagway, Florida. Number 1, Garrett Nussmeier, LSU. Many thought that he would try to go to the NFL this year, but he's back with Brian Kelly and LSU. What do you think about that list?
I think anybody who, if you would have thought coming into this past year that after a full year as a starter that Nico would be listed at number 6 going into the next year, people would have probably thought you were going to be crazy.
Right.
But, I mean, it's a very fair list. You know, I think you can certainly make the case that that's all the higher Nico deserves to be.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, switching gears. I haven't had a chance. I know you've had time to take a little look at what Ed Scott had to say to Jeff Calkins at the Daily Memphian on a number of different topics. There was one topic in particular that I was very, very interested in, but he talked about everything about the future of the University of Memphis and where the athletics department can go, where the school can go from an athletic standpoint. What was your take on the story you read?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a few different stories. There's just a Q&A that he did talking about pretty much everything dealing with the current situation at the University of Memphis as he, is 6 months on the job now. There's another one where he talks about, his goals, and the goal was to make the University of Memphis a top 25 athletic program amongst all of college athletics and his ambitions and why he believes it can be done, all of those types of things. And then there's another one on the stadium construction itself and changes that have been made and what they're doing as far as that is concerned. But, I mean, the thing that has been obvious since Ed Scott got here is that he has a high belief in what is possible here. And he has a high confidence in himself and the team he has put together to achieve goals that, as he's put it, like, quite frankly, people just haven't really believed before. He talks about the fact that oftentimes people seemingly around the University of Memphis or even the city, when things are going great, they always just kind of wonder, when's the other shoe going to drop? And he doesn't, he believes that, right now, obviously, the football team finished the season ranked top 25. Basketball team's ranked top 25. Things are good, and he just feels like it can keep getting better. You don't have to think oh gosh, this isn't possible to sustain. He believes very much that in the possibilities at the University of Memphis in that athletic department.
Yeah, unfortunately, and we've talked about it before, from some people, a lot of people, there's that can't do attitude. We can't do it, right? From everything from the stadium when we talked about 901 FC saving them going out to Mike Rose. How many texts do we get and calls saying, "Oh, you just can't do it. You can't." Stop it. That's the defeatist attitude that we've always had. Ed Scott comes in with a different attitude and basically saying, if you're not on board, get the hell out of here. I don't need you because we're moving forward. Now, again, I haven't read that Q&A, And we're looking forward to hopefully soon have Dr. Scott on the program with us. But I would assume to achieve that goal of being a top 25 athletic department, top 25 program, you need to be in a different conference. Did he say anything about that? Like expecting to be a top 25 while in this conference they're currently in?
Yeah, I mean, he expects them to be able to.
That's a challenge. I'm not saying it's not doable because, again, he has the foresight. He knows already he's making moves to help the future of this program. That's a little bit tougher, but he's trying like heck also to get this team, get this athletic department, rather, to a better conference. There's no secret about that. We know what happened with the whole PAC situation, and I think he made the right move. That was interesting because you had some media members saying that they should have taken the invitation. You and I were both on board with him not taking it. It didn't make sense. Why would you go into a lose money situation? He's looking at bigger and better things. But as far as the stadium is concerned, that really interests me. Because remember, when I got here, Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, of course, it was just the Liberty Bowl back then. I want to say it seated 65,000, somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe even 67,000. And then it slowly dropped capacity. And then it was, 58,000, I think it was. It had dropped to 58,000. Okay, still a pretty large facility. Then the renovation plans were revealed after the money was raised, the deal was met, the construction started. It was going to be 50,000 for a capacity. And the whole controversy with, well, you got the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, you have the Southern Heritage Classic, and they're voicing their opinions. Well, now, and this will be interesting, the way this news is met from those two facets, is Ed saying to Jeff that we're talking about 42 to 44 for capacity, which I think is great, to be honest with you. 42 to 44. Yes, it's not an on-campus, 30 to 35,000, 40 at most stadium. It's not on, but that we're not going to go there again. We're talking about a renovated facility that seats 42 to 44. To me, makes perfect sense. Now, again, the outcry from these other people, I'm sure, is going to be loud. It doesn't matter. The University of Memphis is now running the show. They're now running that stadium. Those two games, Southern Heritage Classic, AutoZone Liberty Bowl, they're going to be tenants, right, renting out that space from the University of Memphis. University of Memphis is making all the calls. The renovations continue. I don't know where they are with the $50 million matching for the Smith donation. I think they're probably close. They may be there. But also he talked about making sure, and this was part of that third phase, is the tunnel, to deepen that tunnel, to widen that tunnel, to make sure that they can get those big old trucks, those rock and roll shows, the monster truck shows, all that, to make sure they have the 18-wheelers to get into the actual stadium to be able to do that. Because if they're not able to get in there, it makes it really, really tough to be able to, bring that equipment in, via hand, not just hand, but, other types of ways. You need to have those trucks get in there. There needs to be easy access. And that's what the tunnel is for, and that's what they're going to do. But the capacity, to me, makes sense. Now, we know how beautiful that's going to look. We've seen the renderings on the one side. They've already started working, or there's still little things to do on the other side, but they did a nice job up there where the press box is. But as long as we don't see tarps and things like that, 42 to 44 makes sense to me. Now, this past season, if I'm not mistaken, the capacity for Memphis football was around 32, is what they were saying. But for the AutoZone Liberty Bowl game, they said it was 41-42. And didn't they announce 41 plus? So the disparity between the two is interesting, but there was 10,000 more seats available for that game. But now we're talking about, again, Ed's talking about permanently making it 42,000 to 44,000. I don't know how people feel out there. I think it's great. But again, I'm sure you're going to hear those other entities crying about it because they want max capacity, especially if they bring in a big-name team. And the Southern Heritage Classic always does well attendance. The AutoZone Liberty Bowl always does well and can do really well when it's a big-name regional program from the SEC that's going to draw a lot of people. And so now you're limited on how many people you can get. But it's going to be a much more attractive, visually attractive stadium. And hopefully it's also going to be a stadium where people will be able to enjoy themselves more than in the past because of the modern entities. Amenities, I should say, that are being brought in with this renovation. I think it's a positive thing that he has said with the limit amount of seats of 42 to 44. And again, they are running the show. They're calling the shots. What do you think?
I think we'll take a break and talk about it hour number 2.
You need more than a few minutes. I understand. All right, we'll do that. We'll get your thoughts on that. We got a lot of Tiger basketball news to get to as well. We're going to talk about last night and the TGL. Maybe you're not into it, but it was fun last night as we finally had a close match and a dramatic finish. I do want to tell you folks about Shoot 360 Memphis. From preps to pros, this place is just a cool place to go and play basketball to better your skills, whether it's passing drills, shooting skills, whatever the case may be. Being coached by some of the top coaches around, using modern analytics. And again, the technology is second to none. Shoot 360 Memphis now allows you to join on a monthly basis, a monthly membership. Why wouldn't you try it for a month? If you don't like it, fine. No harm, no foul. But I'm telling you, you're going to fall in love with it, and then you can go month to month. Or if you want to sign a longer agreement, that's fine as well. They got 2 convenient locations. They are located in Cordova. The number to call there to set up a tour to get more information, 901-779-3176. Or in Collierville at 901-316-5500. There is nothing like, you've never seen anything like Shoot 360 Memphis. Call them today or stop by any of their 2 facilities. You could also go right online to Shoot 360 Memphis and sign up, register right now. It's Shoot 360 Memphis. Don't forget coaches out there. They have free coaching clinics for you. So go in there and learn the game from some of the top coaches in the country. It's Shoot 360 Memphis. You're tuned in to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
I think people forget there's a Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
And that's on us.
Well, you.
What does that mean?
Well, you're the spokesperson for Central Barbecue. It's your responsibility to remind people there's a Central Barbecue in South Haven.
It's very convenient that I'm the spokesperson when there's responsibility to be taken.
Just mention the Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
I got a lot to remember. There's the location on Butler downtown. There's a location on Summer, on Poplar.
And Getwell Road in South Haven. How hard is that?
I've heard you call yourself a spokesperson for Central Barbecue.
No, it was just to pick up chicks.
You need unique and personalized products. Expressions has got you. 12 custom embroidered polo shirts or trucker walk caps starting at $180. Custom embroidered fleece lighter jackets starting at $99. Custom life-size cutouts and photo boards from 2 to 10 feet tall. 3D laser glass photos just in time for Valentine's Day starting at $49. Expressions has a wide selection of promotional products and many printing options. Expressions, Wolf Chase Gallery, upper level near Dillard's. Call 901-585-1970 for information and details. Expressions, creating advertisement with Expressions.
Hey folks, no time to wait. It's here, the 36th annual January sale going on now at Sunrise Buick GMC of Wolf Chase. Didn't get what you wanted for the holidays? That's okay. Now's the time to take care of you. Are you 100% happy with your holiday? Now's the time to get you a new ride. 2 3 days, big discounts, low interest rates, Sunrise divorce, low pages, no credit. It's all okay at Sunrise.
Nestled in the heart of East Memphis, located corner of Park and Cherry, is a beautiful residential neighborhood. I'm here at Town Village Audubon Park interviewing a new resident, Carolyn. Share with us why you chose Town Village.
Well, if your parents or special friends need to make that big move, let me share with you my experience. It was tough for me to leave home, but then I discovered Town Village. I would like to highly recommend Town Village to you and your loved ones. After looking at all the amenities and meeting all the people and the staff, I was hooked. From
like home, Town Village.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good morning. Traffic starting to build pretty good coming in from Fayette County as we check it out live on 40 westbound. In from Fayette County there at 269 into Shelby County. It's got a little bit heavier in the last few minutes. I-40 passing Watkins over here at the 101 connector. It's heavy but moving southbound on 51 coming in from Millington. Weimer's Jewelry 7525 Highway 64 is your Valentine's Day headquarters this year. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis, with Dave Woloshin, weekday mornings from 10 to 11.
Now back to Sports 56 mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers.
Don't you just love it?
Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Welcome back, everyone. 8:03 the time, hour number 2 here on Sports 56 Mornings. Greg Gaston, Eli Savoy, and Elijah Seegers with you on this Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. We're broadcasting live from the Family Leisure Studios. Family Leisure, the floor model sale continues. They're located at 2120 Witten Road, just north of I-40. Currently 36 degrees. It's going to warm up to 60 today. Sunshine. It's going to feel beautiful outside tonight. 40 degrees, mainly clear skies, and then for your Wednesday, 63 for a high, mostly sunny. Then clouds will roll in. We'll get some rain on Thursday, but take advantage of some beautiful late January weather. Hour 2 of the program is brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers. I'll give you more of the particulars later on in the hour, but it is Tuesday. It's time for Humdinger's Trivia.
That's right. Opportunity for somebody out there to win a $25 gift certificate to Humdingers. And, of course, if it's Tuesday, that means it's Taco Tuesday over at Humdingers with their chicken and fish tacos, just $2 each, all day, each and every Tuesday for you to take advantage of that great deal. But beyond the tacos, so many other great items on the menu, from any of their great appetizers like the crispy calamari, or maybe their wings, or the crab cakes, or the Humdinger shrimp. Sandwiches like the Piri Piri burger, or any of their po' boy sandwiches, the entrees like the grilled fish options that they've got with some of those great toppings or great sides, all delicious, lots of healthy items on the menu. You can all find at Humdingers over at Poplar and Massey, or you can find online the menu by going to humdingersrestaurant.com. You know, you find the menu, you can find information about catering, you can order online, you can get it all right there at humdingersrestaurant.com. If you are the first to answer our trivia question correctly, well, then you'll get the $25 gift certificate to Humdingers, which you can go spend and have some of that great food. If you've won in the last 30 days, you are not eligible, and you only get one guess. You can answer via text at 901-360-8255, 901-360-8255. That is the number. Text in your answers. And again, the first correct answer will get the $25 gift certificate to Humdingers. And here is today's question. Which quarterback in the NFL has the most career passing yards without ever appearing in a Super Bowl? Which NFL quarterback has the most career passing yards without ever appearing in a Super Bowl? 360-8255, 360-8255. Text in those answers. First correct answer gets a $25 gift certificate to Humdingers. Most passing yards without ever making a Super Bowl.
All right, we got a lot of Tigers news to get to. We'll do that. Ross Tucker will join us at 9:45 to talk about the big game, the Eagles and the Chiefs playing for the second time in the Super Bowl in 3 years. That'll be at 9:45. But I wrapped up hour 1 going on my little soapbox about the Ed Scott news, and Jeff did a great job with the Q&A. Got a lot of good questions in and a lot of good answers from Ed Scott, who I just love. His vision is fantastic. And it's interesting, again, what the plans are for the continued renovation of Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. What's your thoughts?
Well, certainly, there is no need whatsoever for the University of Memphis to have more than 42 to 44,000 is a perfectly fine capacity for the University of Memphis. No need whatsoever to be more than that. The change that they are making that's reducing the capacity is a very simple one. All it is they're not going to do the seating above the plaza that they're putting in there on the west side of the stadium. There was going to be the plaza, and part of phase 3 was that there was going to be basically a layer of seats up above them. They're not going to do that. I actually think that makes the plaza better as well because it closed it now. Now it's more open air. I think that actually kind of makes the plaza better while reducing that capacity as well. So I think that certainly makes a lot of sense. What Ed Scott said to Jeff in an article is absolutely correct. He's not doing this for Steve Earhart and the AutoZone Liberty Bowl or Fred Jones Southern Heritage Classic. He's doing this is being done, and from his perspective, what he's got to do is for the University of Memphis. Take care of the University of Memphis. Those guys play one game in that stadium. Memphis plays 6 or 7 or 8 a year in that stadium. So it has to fit what they need, and that's his only priority. And that's what it should be. That's what his priority should be. What is the best for the University of Memphis?
Well, more than just the football games, also the other events that they plan to bring to that stadium as revenue makers, because they are now running the show. So it all comes into play with this decision. And by the way, as you mentioned, aesthetically, that's what you want. You want all these renovations to make that stadium as aesthetically, excuse me, that's a tough word to say, aesthetically pleasing to the eye.
Duval.
And what I don't want is tarps and things of that nature. If you have major capacity, you're not going to fill those seats in a normal American Conference game. Let's be honest, they understand that. So if you had 50,000, that's a lot of seats and maybe tarps up there, and it just looks crappy, to be honest with you. And yes, there'll be less capacity for those two games. So be it.
And he also, and I don't, certainly this would be something for the engineers, all that stuff, and what's possible and where it's possible. But he mentions that they could bring in, for if those games need more seating, there is the possibility of bringing in temporary seating and increasing the capacity for those games. How much that would be possible, I have no idea. Again, that would be up to all them engineers and architects and figure out where you could put it, what's possible, all of that stuff. But there is ways for them to get more people in there than what that 42 to 44,000 would be. And the thing too, listen, I don't know. Granted, there are certain teams or whatever, but we can look at bowl games across the country and look at some of the crowds that are at some of these. I don't know how many times that the AutoZone Liberty Bowl is going to need more than 44,000 seats. And again, if they can add a few thousand with temporary seating or whatever, but I don't know how many times they're going to be drawing 50,000 people going forward. It's just hard. It's hard in the bowl world. That's just a difficult ask to draw 50,000 people to a bowl game, regardless of what teams you're bringing in.
Yeah, it's not happening a lot around the country. But the other thing is announced crowd and actual butts in the seat. They always have a huge announced crowd, both those games. And in the past, it's been pretty crowded in those stadiums. So I'm not sure what they're legitimately getting. I don't know if they're ever getting over 50, but there's been announced crowds over 50. Maybe they have. But you're right. I mean, I think that number is legitimately in the 40s.
And I don't know how the SEC, obviously they're in that pool of, and they're competing with NFL stadiums generally in that pool of bowl games, which do obviously have the massive capacities, all that stuff. I don't know how the SEC, for instance, will view this and what that means as far as that is concerned. I don't know. And it very well could have some effect, but again, for Ed Scott, not his issue. As he said, what we don't want to do is renovate it. It looks great, but then the place is empty. Like, we have to do it to fit what we need, and that's what they're doing. And again, who knows what those possibilities are as far as temporary seating and how many more seats could be added and how you would go about doing that, all of those things. But I certainly think that 42 to 44,000 makes a lot of sense for the University of Memphis. That seems like a very fair number, so that when you do have a SEC opponent come in or a big-time opponent come in, you can still sell a good number of tickets. You're not going down to 30,000 where you go, boy, that really limits us on if we do get a big opponent in. But it's also not a crazy number that when you don't have those big opponents in, the place looks empty because there's only 25,000 there, and there's more empty seats than filled seats.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a list of bowl games and the announced attendance for this season. I have a partial list. This is not all the games. Actually, this is not even this year. This was last year. But last year, Iowa State, Memphis, and that's the hometown team, it was announced 48,789. Now, did they actually have 48,789 in the stadium? I wouldn't believe so, but that's the same thing for all these games. Tax Slayer Gator Bowl had 40,000. You had the Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl, 30,000. Now, some huge attendance when you're talking about a Rose Bowl with a 96,000 announced. The Cotton Bowl, 70,000 announced. Again, that's announced crowds.
Well, the playoff games, yes, they're going to get
right.
that.
But you had the Relia Quest Bowl, 31,000 announced. Again, this is an incomplete list, and this was last year. Elijah, if you could find a list for this year as far as attendance for bowl games, I'd like to know. But again, that's what they announce. And I doubt very much in any of these games that what they announce is the actual attendance. But, for example, the game this year, the AutoZone Liberty Bowl game, they announced, what was it, 42? 41 something, right?
I think it was like 37. But
37, and the capacity was 41 or 42, something like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there was 37,000. The one side was completely packed. The other side, not so much, but that's where the renovations are, so there's a limited amount of seats. I thought it was pretty decent crowd. But again, we're not talking about the 50s and the 55s and the 60s that maybe one day we had. I don't think that's happening unless you're involved in the playoff.
And I don't know, as far as the Southern Heritage Classic, obviously the team change and all of that. So I don't know what their attendance was this year with no Jackson State. So, and what exactly, we don't know the future of that as far as the teams are concerned going forward. So do they need more than 44,000? I don't know. Again, we don't know how many is possible as far as temporary seating. With that being a possibility, how many more could you add as far as what they are needing in that? Because the thing is, too, now
they announced 27-5 for this past year's team.
Yeah, again, I mean, the game has changed, obviously.
Right,
we
no
take
Jackson State
out of it, and we don't even know going forward what the teams are going to be. So certainly that game has changed, and I don't know that needing 44,000 would be an issue there. So to me, that seems like a very reasonable number that should be able to work for everybody. And again, I like the fact of keeping that plaza area that they're putting in there very much open air rather than having the seats above it and kind of enclosing it. Now it is going to just be fully open air. And so I think that ends up, to me, for the plaza, being better than what it would have been.
Well, I mean, again, Dr. Scott makes a great point. You don't want to sit there and have all these empty seats, especially that games are all televised nowadays, whether it be live streamed on Plus or whether it be on one of the big networks. It doesn't matter. The point is you're going to see it visually. And when you see all those empty seats, it never made sense in the past to have the cameras at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium facing the visitor side. It didn't make sense. So you're going to see a bunch of empty seats. But if you limit the capacity, a better chance that it's going to look more full. Same deal. You play in an NBA arena. I think that's really cool that the Tigers play in an NBA arena. And for the players, I'm sure that's really cool as well. But the days of packing that place are long gone. It's extremely hard to get 15, 16, let alone 18. So again, you're going to see empty seats, even though they've done a good job selling the lower bowl. It's not like when you watch a game at Cameron. And it's nuts. Well, what does Cameron seat? 4,000? 5,000? It's not 18,000.
I think it's like 9,000.
Is it even that big? I don't even know it's that big. The point is, you're talking about one of the storied programs in the history of the game, and if it was an 18,000, 17,000 cavernous arena, I don't think they're selling out. As good as they are, it's very hard to do so. So you want to, again, from the viewpoint of fans around the country, they want to be looking at that game, go, wow, look at that crowd going nuts. There was the picture of the game from Sunday that somebody had posted, formerly in the American Conference, by the way, posting this picture and saying, you got this great matchup, you got UAB, the pick to win it in the preseason, you got Memphis right now battling UAB and other teams to win and look at the crowd. Well, again, it was early. We know we're a late arriving fan base in Memphis. It was Sunday at noon. Church, hello, come on, we're in the Bible Belt. And they ended up announcing, I think, 12. I don't know what they had. It wasn't 12, but it was a lot better once the game got going than it was at the beginning of the game. But still, you see the empty seats, or in this case, you saw the shirts that were lying on those seats that were unoccupied. These are big arenas. This is a big stadium. This is a smart thing to do, to limit the capacity, but still have enough for when those games are being played for the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, the Southern Heritage Classic, to have a big concert. You know, what concert are you going to get that's going to draw 40-something thousand unless you had Taylor Swift in here? But it's still a big monstrosity. It's a big stadium. This isn't an on-campus where you're trying to shove it into a little area and you're going to have 30,000 for capacity, 25 for capacity, like a lot of the smaller schools do. Memphis has still got a big stadium, but this, I think, makes the best out of the situation, and especially the excitement that is going to be brought to the fan base with this renovation that's going on. And people want to see something new, whether it's renovated new or whether it's new. They want to see that, and that'll excite the fan base. I think it's going to look good. It's going to look a lot better than have 50,000 plus and have tarps. It's going to look better.
Yeah, and I obviously, without adding that tier of seating up above that plaza, I don't know how much, but I would assume that also cuts the cost of the renovation. Obviously, it's less construction. You're taking a bunch of seats that you were going to build and you're not building them anymore. So that has to cut the cost of the renovation a little bit.
Yeah, I would think so. And again, I don't know all the particulars, and I know there's the second phase, which they're in right now, and then there was supposedly the third phase, and that third phase included that tunnel. I know that tunnel is what's going to be a part of this project, so I guess technically would be into a third phase. Is it a complete third phase? Are they still raising that money? I would imagine they are. I mean, there's a lot of things that are still in play.
Yeah, they still are raising the money. I mean, they still need $26 million, he said, but I think he said apparently there's a couple of major donations that will be announced soon. So he seems fully confident that they're going to get there and be able to do everything.
Yeah, working their tails off. That's what they're doing. And it's been a very eventful 6 months on the job for Dr. Ed Scott. But good job by Jeff with that interview with Ed. And again, we're hoping to have Ed on here sooner than later. James Gaddis Jewelers is the second hour sponsor of Sports 56 Mornings. They are your family's jeweler. They have been around Memphis for 60 years. They started on Summer Avenue. Now they're at 4900 Poplar. It's right between Mendenhall and St. Nick's. So, again, part of the fabric of this community for 6 decades. You're looking for that special engagement ring, wedding ring, personally designed wedding sets. Make sure James Gaddis Jewelers is one of the jewelers that you go to. You're going to check out probably a few of them, and you should. But James Gaddis Jewelers they have all the credentials there, right? James is a master jeweler, a certified appraiser, a diamondologist. He's graded by the Gemologist Institute of America. That's his life, jewelry. His family, Notre Dame, and jewelry. He knows what he's doing. They know what they're doing over there. All the folks are experienced jewelers. They are full-service jewelers with 2 bench jewelers ready to serve you. In other words, you need a simple cleaning. You need a resetting of your stone. Look, your fingers get bigger and they get smaller. They shrink. They get bigger. If you put on weight, things happen, and you're going to have to get that adjusted. They can take care of that for you. They also have a price point to suit everyone's budget. So whether you're looking for that $1,500, $2,000 diamond engagement ring or a $75,000 diamond engagement ring or more, whatever the case may be, whatever your price point is, they can make it work for you. James Gaddis Jewelers, 4900 Poplar, between Mendenhall and St. Nick, and on the web at gaddisjewelers.com.
We do have a correct answer in our Humdinger's trivia. Elijah, I'm going to need your tie-breaking abilities here in just a moment. We did have a couple that came with the correct answer at the same time. There were there are quite a few that got the correct answer, quite a few that got the wrong answer. Again, the question was which quarterback has the most career passing yards without ever appearing in a Super Bowl. Remember, didn't have to win a Super Bowl.
Right. So Dan Marino.
So a lot of people that said Dan Marino, that he appeared in a Super Bowl. He just didn't win a Super Bowl. So Dan Marino would not qualify here as the correct answer. If it was the most without winning a Super Bowl, then you'd be onto something there with Dan Marino. But he is not the correct answer. Lots of Warren Moons. Lots of Dan Fouts. Very good guesses.
Good guesses.
But incorrect. Do you know who it is?
Is it Cousins?
It is not Kirk Cousins.
He's got a lot of yards. Unless I'm mistaken, he hasn't made it to a Super Bowl. Who is it?
It is Phillip Rivers.
Okay. Makes sense.
Phillip Rivers with over, between regular season and playoffs combined, over 66,000 passing yards in his career.
Jeez.
But never made it to a Super Bowl. So, Elijah, we've got it's a two-way tie of people that got it at the same time faster than the others with that correct answer. So, Elijah, Venus or Serena?
Ooh. I feel like throughout both of their careers, I feel like Venus has not gotten as much love as she deserves. So I'm going to go with Venus Williams.
There you go. That's the correct answer, by the way.
I love how he rationalizes it.
Venus is the correct answer. You went with the correct answer.
You hate Serena for some reason. She's only the most dominant female player ever in history.
So we will be contacting our winner, letting you know how you get your $25 gift certificate to Humdingers. If you did come with Phillip Rivers, but you don't hear from us, well, that means you either weren't quick enough or you lost the tiebreaker.
Cousins, 42,979 yards passing. It's a lot of yards, but that's dwarfed by Phillip Rivers. I mean, absolutely dwarfed. One quick note, I just saw this before we take our next break. This is pretty cool. South Haven High School, South Haven football, the Chargers football, they have added Terrence Metcalf to the coaching staff. College Hall of Famer, former Ole Miss standout and NFL veteran Terrence Metcalf, part of the South Haven High School football coaching staff. Good for the Chargers. When we come back, we'll talk some Tigers basketball. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56, 98.5 FM.
Moving is stressful, but Black Tie Moving can take the worry out of the process. Whether you're moving across town or across country, moving your home or your office, your personal moving concierge from Black Tie Moving will work with you to design a moving that perfectly fits your budget and needs. And they're available 24/7 to answer any questions you have. Give Black Tie Moving a call at 901-316-6196 or go to blacktiemoving.com/Memphis to get your personal, no obligation quote from the moving experts at Black Tie Moving.
Is your wife asking you to stop eating junk food? We have it covered at Humdingers. It's quick, it's healthy, and most important, it tastes amazing. Many choices from salmon salad to rainbow trout and grilled asparagus. Come visit us for lunch at Humdingers, 6300 Poplar Avenue. So good, Coach Penny eats with us weekly. Don't forget, Humdingers offers full-service catering for weddings, social events, or your corporate lunches. You You can call 901-260-8292 to find out more.
The Family Leisure floor model sale is happening right now through the end of January. Family Leisure has got to get rid of all the 2024 inventory because all the new 2025 items are starting to arrive. All floor models are up to 50% off. You want a cold plunge tub? They start at $49.99. Go the other route with a hot tub. Get $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Family Leisure has pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, even baseball tables from 20 to 60% off. Want beers here? Family Leisure has theater seating up to 75% off. Plus, now's the time to start thinking about pool seats. You can buy it now, get on the installation schedule, and be ready before everyone else. Special financing is also available. Hey, if you want to get free delivery on any of these items, you just tell the phone staff at Family Leisure that you heard this commercial. It's the floor model sale now through the end of January. Family Leisure, 100 I-40. Family and fun come together.
They're taking care of beerness in Memphis right on the river with Grind City Brewing and all of their great products. Look, this was a dream come true for a father and son duo. And if you have not been to that brewery right on the river, just to the north of downtown, you're really missing something special. And now you can't miss their products. Wherever you go, you see a brand new label. It's clean, it's beautiful, it's distinctive. You'll know Grind City Brewing, and of course you know their products like Poppy's Pills, that great Pilsner, or Tiger Tail, that very creative craft malt liquor. There's the new Thaddeus Amber Lager. That is absolutely a great light beer. There's the India Pale called God Hopper. It's outstanding. And then there's the Belga, the Belgian-style wheat ale. They keep bringing hits at Grind City Brewing.
Listen each and every Sunday morning at 11 to join Ottawa Presbyterian Church for worship. Ottawa is a PCUSA church downtown Memphis. Sports 56 traffic.
Good morning. Finishing up a couple of wrecks we had out here earlier. Remains heavy on 40 westbound from Germantown Parkway to Sycamore View Road. All that traffic still building coming in from Fayette County into Shelby County. Still looks good over here I-40 at Danny Thomas as that traffic builds on 40 East coming across the Hernando de Soto Bridge. Weimer's Jewelry 7525 Highway 64 is your Valentine's Day headquarters this year. Go by and see them and shop local. Why? Because you'll save a lot of money. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Back to Sports 56 mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers.
To reveal the full spectrum of dazzling color.
Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Welcome back, everyone. 8:30 the time, halfway home on this Tuesday edition of Sports 56 Mornings. Greg Gaston, Eli Savoy, and Elijah Seegers. So the Tigers may have only jumped 2 spots in the net on Monday morning after their win Sunday against UAB. But yesterday, sometime after we wrapped up our show, the polls came out and Memphis made a significant leap. If you are into the polls, they jumped up 5 spots in the AP poll as they are now number 19, and in the coaches poll, they are number 16. Now, a lot has to do with the teams that lost around them. I understand that, but it seems like a little more respect from the writers and the coaches rather than the actual analytics. But Memphis, again, moves up to number 19.
Yeah, I don't what that means, absolutely nothing. But I know some people get very caught up in where they are in the polls, so good for you.
I still wonder if the selection committee, while they're not considering polls and they're looking more at the numbers, the metrics, the eye tests, things of that nature, don't, because they're human, still kind of glance over at the polls. Now, if Memphis falters the rest of the way in any game, more than likely they'll drop out. Because unless it's UAB on the road, pretty significant drop-off, losing to anybody. So they have to be pretty much perfect the rest of the way. But I wonder, again, if the committee's looking and going, all right, they're 40 in the net, but the writers have them 15, the coaches have them 12, whatever the case may be. But they're sitting there at number 19. Number 1 is Auburn. Auburn continues to look like the best team in the country at 18-1. They got all 62 first-place votes. Duke second, and I'm talking about the AP poll here. Iowa State third, but they lose last night in overtime to Arizona.
Yeah, what a crazy ending regulation as Caleb Love hits the shot from well beyond half court to force the overtime, and then Arizona dominated the overtime and won easily. But that's some amazing stuff. That's had to be at least 60 feet. I don't know how far that is, but he just to heave at the buzzer to tie the game and get it in overtime, and Iowa State unable to recover, and obviously that building was going berserk. So no surprise that once he did that, Arizona wins it in overtime.
Yeah, I know most of that's luck, that kind of shot, but Caleb Love, the thing with Caleb Love is he's been inconsistent. We know when he is on, he is on. He's one of the top players in the country, but he's very inconsistent. So Arizona has been inconsistent subsequently. But they came back, as you said, in that overtime. They throttled the Cyclones. 86-75 was your final. Alabama's fourth. Florida is fifth. And Florida got some news yesterday that we'll talk about in a moment. Houston moved up. Michigan State moved up. Exactly what I said would happen yesterday. Houston would go to 6. Michigan State 7. They dropped Tennessee down to 8, which they did. Then Marquette and Purdue round out your top 10. Purdue has 5 losses now, 16-5, but they are number 10. From the SEC, Kentucky is 12th. Texas A&M is 13th. Mississippi State is 14th. Then we mentioned Memphis at number 19. Another group of Tigers from Missouri. They're number 20. Ole Miss stays in the poll. We were wondering if they would. They are number 23. Vanderbilt into the poll after their win over Kentucky. They also have a win over Tennessee. They deserve. They are number 24. Did that without Diego Pavia, which is interesting. And Connecticut, they did not drop out. Connecticut has 6 losses now, 14-6. They're always going to get the benefit of the doubt. They dropped 6 spots, but they remain in at number 25. And then as far as others receiving votes, there are no other schools. Yes, there is. Oklahoma from the SEC, they got 2 points, 2 votes.
They got that going for them.
Which is nice. Michigan's number 26, by the way. I thought Maryland might jump in after winning road games at Illinois and Indiana, but they are, I guess, 27th if you stretch it. Illinois, by the way, which I think is a very good basketball team, they have 6 losses. They're 14-6, but they are number 18 in the country.
The Michigan, by the way, got a very close win last night over Penn State. That was a heck of a battle as well. That game was, which most games in the Big Ten. Then you had Cooper Flagg go. Duke struggled really bad early last night.
They did,
and were down big, and then put together. I don't even know what the run ended up being. I know I got to at least 15-0, bridging the first and second halves, and then Flagg ends up going for I think 28. As they get another win over NC State and continue to run their way through the ACC without any blemishes.
I didn't watch the game, but I saw the story, not the full story, but the tweet about a student that appeared to have fallen unconscious and had to be carried out of the stands late in that game.
I did not see that. I did not watch the
Elijah, did you? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I just saw that story this morning. I don't know. I didn't click through, but I just saw the headline.
I assume it was a student. I mean, that's what the announcer said, and I have not heard word one on what happened to that person. If you got that information, let me know. But Duke ended up pulling away at the end, winning 74-64.
One of the questions I always have about Cameron Indoor, whenever I watch games there, and I've never been to a game there. I don't know. I'm sure. I know they're a big Duke fan, Ryan, who normally listens. What I want to know about Cameron Indoor, how many non-student fans do they have?
7 people.
Like, how many tickets do they have available for people that aren't students? Because it looks like the whole place is students.
Yeah, I mean
the one whole side is students. I think.
Well, first of all,
the one end looks like it's students. The other end is like the band. So I don't know what's on the side where the camera is. How many seats are there? So if somebody has that answer, I would love to know that.
First of all, you're right. It's 9,314 capacity. Again, it's not 18,000, but it's more than I thought. It does look like it's completely filled with students because they put the students in the right spots. That's an issue, and that's always a dilemma for an athletic department. Where do you put the boosters, the top dollars, the big money people? Where do you put them as opposed to where you put the students? At FedEx Forum, the students are behind one of the goals. They're in the end zone. They're no factor. Now, they're not getting as many fans or students than Duke gets or some of these other arenas, but how do you make the fans, the students, more of a factor for your home court advantage, but also knowing that you are trying to sell those better seats to individuals that will pay more money for it and appease them, the boosters, the deep-pocketed boosters. That's a dilemma. I think, and I wasn't around, but somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, the Mid-South Coliseum, that the students were right there, maybe behind the bench, the visiting bench.
I have no idea. I certainly wasn't here for that.
I mean, I got here, and it was the Pyramid and then FedEx Forum, but the loudest people behind the visiting bench was the Bird Brothers. I mean, I don't remember any students ever there, but I think I heard that maybe at the Coliseum they were over there. Again, it's a tough dilemma because you want to make as much money as you can. There were seats that used to be for the media behind the scorer's table that they now sell. Grizzlies sell seats, Tigers sell seats. They're trying to find different revenue streams. That's understandable. That's completely understandable to try to do that. But again, you have a home court advantage. You want it to be an advantage. And Cameron is a damn advantage.
Matt Texan says the best part about going to Memphis games back where they were playing at the Pyramid was that the student section was behind the opposing bench.
Okay, so maybe I remember
absolutely
the
loved
Pyramid.
watching them give Bob Huggins fits. Really wish they could do that at the Forum.
Well, I remember the Bird Brothers giving them fits, but I mean, he's probably right. My memory's not the best, and I was here for the latter years of the Pyramid, but if somebody can remind me about the Coliseum, I heard that was the case as well.
Drew says the student section at the Pyramid was behind the visitors' bench until Conference USA changed the rules of where students could sit.
Really? It was Conference USA that changed the rules? What kind of rules does the American Conference have? Does any arena in this conference have students that sit behind the visitors' bench? I don't know. They probably don't. Or the bigger question is, does any arena other than Memphis actually have fans?
Obviously it certainly doesn't have to be behind the visitors' bench. You could put it anywhere, but other than the end zone per se, obviously many places, Ole Miss uses the one entire side of the court for their student section now that they are in the pavilion. The lower level on the one side is for students. There are many that have, students on the side of the court. But again, I don't, with the Tigers, you don't want to give away those seats if students aren't going to come use them.
Well, that's another issue. You're right.
Like that's the thing. Like if you're going to set that aside, now obviously during Christmas break, stuff like that. I mean, these places like that's just going to be a part of it. That the student section's pretty much going to be empty during that time of year. But I don't know where the Tigers currently stand as far as season tickets and all of that. If they could create a couple of sections at least on the side of the court. But the thing is, too, because the way it's set up, and with it being an NBA arena a little differently, that you're talking about the seats on the side are a lot further off the court than what you're talking about at a Cameron Indoor or even.
Yes.
I mean, the pavilion is back because they do have the front row seats that are right there on the court. So there's a little bit of separation there. But so I don't. To me, it would be much rather to have the students. Better to have the students on a side. I just don't know what's possible with what they've got ticket sales wise.
But they're a non-factor at FedEx Forum. They're in the end zone and they're further up. They're not in those high rent district seats that are right behind the goal. That's, again, boosters paying good money for those seats. They're up, and they're far away from the court. They're a non-factor. Cameron, I'm trying to find an answer for the question you had. It just says 93-14 capacity with a large number of those seats reserved for students. The student sections are located in the lower sections of the arena, right next to the court. Well, we know that. But I don't know if, like you said, outside of the cameras on the other side, I would assume that that's regular fan.
Yeah, again,
regular.
I'd love to go to a game there, just to say I went to a game there. But I also like to see the way it's set up because, again, you don't ever get to see the one side, but the other side is students, and it looks like the one end is students, and the other end is like the band. So I always think, like, my God, what do they got? Like, how many seats can there be remaining that they actually sell to just regular fans who aren't current students?
This story I'm looking at, again, I don't know the accuracy. It says the student section, it's reserved for 1,200 to 1,600 students, and they are reserved for the best seats basically in the house. They want to be right there to give their team that home court advantage. So, again, you're talking 9,300 capacity. Only 1,200 to 1,600 are students, according to this story. But they're right there.
That looks a hell of a lot like more than 12 to 1,500 or whatever.
Oh,
students.
God, yeah. Yeah, it seems like it's 5,000 or more of the students. But I don't know how many other arenas are better home court advantages than Duke. Who would you throw up there, Elijah, as far as other schools around the country that have as good or better home court advantages because of the student section?
I think Kansas definitely competes. I don't think anybody can really contend with the Cameron Crazies, but I think Kansas is up there. I think an underrated one, I will say, Iowa State, Hilton Coliseum is a very underrated one in my opinion.
I know when I did a game at Missouri years ago in the old arena, the Antlers, I mean, they were in the end zone. They were not behind the bench, but it was staggering how much of an advantage they gave their team. They were merciless on the Tigers, the Memphis Tigers coming in. They were really, really bad. I did a game at NC State. I don't even know if they played at the old it was the Reynolds Coliseum. They play at a different arena now, I believe, but it was the Reynolds Coliseum, and I'm doing a game, and I got students kicking me in the back. That's how close they were. They were all over the lower bowl. And most of the place I go to, it is students all over the lower bowl.
Well, we got one texter says in the Mid-South Coliseum, students were behind the visitors' bench. Another one says Mid-South Coliseum, students were behind the goals on both ends.
So which one is it?
Maybe it changed. I don't know.
Yeah, again, I wasn't there. The Coliseum was still used, but it wasn't used for Tigers basketball when I got here.
Another texter says if they did that with the student section, it creates a better atmosphere, which should help sell tickets. Yeah, again, students should be a big part of creating your atmosphere at a college basketball game. If you can get a bunch of students in there and they're in the seats right there, they should. That should be a huge part of what your atmosphere at a college basketball game is.
It may be low on the totem pole of reasons why Memphis doesn't get the invite to another conference, but student section, student participation, all that stuff is important. When you see that atmosphere, even though the college game has changed, right? With NIL, with the portal, big dollars, it's changed. But still, when you see that student atmosphere, that's what college sports is about. And while there are games that the students do show up for Memphis, there's a lot that they don't. But again, they're going to sell those prime seats to deep-pocketed boosters rather than give them to students.
See, I wonder with the new Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium where they're going to put the student section there, because I would imagine many of the students will probably end up hanging out in the plaza, the ones that are at the game, because that's the way students want to watch games anyway, is just kind of hang out
and talk.
And then the game's going on. It's a social event, and the game's going on while you're there. And then if it gets to the end of the game and it's a good game, all right, now let's pay attention to the game.
Right. One other Tigers basketball note before we take our next time out. P.J. Haggerty named the American Conference Player of the Week for only the fourth time this season. 22.5 points per game is what he averaged in the Tigers' 2 wins, 6.5 assists, 5.5 rebounds, 3.5 steals in 35.3 minutes per game. Shot 17 of 27 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3. Drove the team bus, which was amazing. Haggerty now has 14 games of 20 or more points this season. So once again, congratulations to P.J. Haggerty. You're tuned in to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
I think people forget there's a Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
And that's on us.
Well, you.
What does that mean?
Well, you're the spokesperson for Central Barbecue. It's your responsibility to remind people there's a Central Barbecue in South Haven.
It's very convenient that I'm the spokesperson when there's responsibility to be taken.
Just mention the Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
I got a lot to remember. There's the location on Butler downtown. There's a location on Summer, on Poplar.
And Getwell Road in South Haven. How hard is that?
I've heard you call yourself a spokesperson for Central Barbecue.
It was just to pick up chicks.
Take your basketball skills to the next level at Shoot 360 Memphis. Shoot 360 is a revolutionary basketball training facility that combines cutting-edge technology with gamification and provides instant, objective feedback with hands-on, one-on-one expert coaching. And now, introducing Shoot 360 for you, a newly renovated 50,000 square foot facility with 2 NBA regulation-sized courts, 3 high school-sized courts, and 4 shooting bays with Shoot 360 technology. Memberships are now on a monthly basis. And yes, you can become a member in both locations. Whether you're an aspiring young talent, NBA player, or looking for a unique workout, all skill levels are welcome at Shoot 360 Memphis to learn proper shooting and passing techniques, improve fundamentals, and gain a competitive edge while having fun. Shoot 360 Memphis now in Cordova and Collierville. Call them today at 901-779-3176. That's 901-779-3176. The future of basketball training is here. Shoot 360 Memphis.
Now, back to Sports 56 Mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers. Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Got a few other texts here from folks who say that at the Coliseum they were indeed behind the baskets. So the one that said they were on the side apparently was, or behind the bench at the Coliseum, has been completely outvoted at this point.
So it must have been the pyramid that I remembered when I first got here as the students behind the bench. But more so I remember Harold and Bobby Bird, more so screaming at Bob Huggins and others throughout the years. That's what I remember more of. So we really never have taken, or the school has never really taken advantage of that, of the students being behind the visitors' bench. But again, you made a great point. Can you depend on the students to fill those tickets every game? And you probably can't. Plus, again, you're trying to find other revenue streams, and that's That's the way they could bring in big-time money with those primo seats.
And I wouldn't put him behind the visitors' bench, but I would put him on the side of the court. I would find whether it's a section, 2 sections, whatever. I don't know what the number of seats is that theoretically. I would assume that the behind the visitors' bench, like that's where the visitors' tickets are. I don't know. I don't know how they
There's
do
not that many, though. There's not.
Well, no, but I assume you have to have some of those available for the visitors.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be exactly behind the bench, but kind of catty corner to it, whatever. Again, the end zones don't do anything. They're just far away. They're far away from the court at FedEx Forum. All right, the University of Florida has ended their Title IX probe that involved head coach Todd Golden. They said no evidence was found regarding allegations of sexual exploitation and stalking. So case closed on Todd Golden.
Good for him.
But there's still an assistant coach, isn't there? That's for maybe a different situation, but sexual harassment, if I'm not mistaken. But as far as Todd Golden is concerned, yeah, it looks like no evidence, so he's fine, and Florida's fine. They are number 5 in the country.
I wonder if they weren't number 5 in the country if they would have found anything.
Interesting. I don't know. So the Dane Danger Yaxel Lendeborg thing on social media, it's not gotten out of hand or anything like that. But again, for those who don't remember, Danger press conference Sunday after the UAB win said he didn't know UAB's Yaxel Lendeborg was preseason AAC Player of the Year before Memphis started its scout on the Blazers. No disrespect, I just didn't see it. I don't think he's saying I just didn't see him being picked. I think he's saying I just didn't see it. I didn't know he was there. And I can understand that. And then Lendeborg comes back and says, as we talked about yesterday, congrats on the best game of your career, bro. Nobody likes to be called bro, I don't think. And then the heart, I'll see you. And so Danger has responded, LOL, bet. Capital B, capital E, capital T. Danger, Lendeborg, round 2, Birmingham, Bartow Arena. What is it, March 2nd?
Mm-hmm.
Be there, aloha. But before that, the Tigers had to make their way down to New Orleans to play Tulane. Ron Hunter. Weird things have happened with Tulane in the past. And then Sunday, they go to Houston. Used to be where you'd play the Cougars. Now you're playing the Rice Owls. I did a game one time. I know it's a different arena. I believe it's a different arena or just a whole different renovation. I did a game at Rice one time. On the sides. No, we're talking about like having the fans on the sides and this and that, and you see beautiful FedEx Forum. They had a curtain and a stage where they were playing pickup basketball on the other side of the black curtain. And once in a while, a ball would come loose and somehow get through, not onto the court of the game that was taking place between Memphis and Rice, but close to it. I mean, it was just some black old dingy curtain. That was back in the day, but that's what I remember from Rice. It is hard to get up for every single game. We talked ad nauseum yesterday about this. Maybe not so much at Tulane. Tulane is one of the top teams in the conference. And Ron Hunter, they're not great.
They haven't won at Tulane in forever.
Yeah, I was going to say, strange things happen normally in New Orleans, weird things. Hunter, I still think he's a really good coach. He doesn't have a great team. He hasn't been able to. They're not dumping in money in that program. You know, they're not putting big money into NIL. But they're a dangerous squad. But then you got to turn around if you take care of business and somehow get up for Rice. That's the thing. And you turn around, you got Tulsa back home on Wednesday. You have to find a way, each individual player, to fire themselves up. Whatever it takes, whatever you can think about, that'll get you in the right mental state before you go out there and play. And you know it's all a conspiracy to buy more food. What are you eating, Jerry? Rice. So there's that.
There is that.
Last night, we'll talk about this when we return for hour number 3. Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy. in something they called TGL. But this time, TGL, Tomorrow Golf League, actually had some excitement. We'll talk about that. We'll get back into our lead story today, and that was the Grizzlies' horrific performance last night in New York against the Knicks. We'll take your calls and texts on the Sissy's Log Cabin listener lines at 901-360-8255. And then at 9:45, we'll be joined by former NFL offensive lineman Ross Tucker. We'll talk about the Super Bowl and some other things as well with Ross. That's all coming up. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
The system at Sunrise on Jefferson and Sunrise East on Poplar is perfect. First, you order at the counter from the huge menu, chock full of deliciousness. Wait, before you do that, just make sure your entire party is there. Then, get in line. Then, order at the counter from the huge menu of deliciousness. Then, grab a number and head to any table you'd like. I mean, as long as there aren't people already sitting there. Then, before you know it, the best breakfast or lunch you can't find anywhere but Sunrise will arrive, piping hot and fresh. Remember, you can only stay an hour at Sunrise because people refuse to leave.
I'm Gary York. I'm the service director of Lexus in Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
Everyone needs protection, whether you're on the field or on the road, so make sure you have the best. Bob Simpson State Farm Insurance can buckle you up with auto insurance, can back you up with life and health insurance, cover your business whether it's starting, growing, or maturing, and don't forget to insure your home, no matter if you're an owner or a renter. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call Bob Simpson today at 901-381-1233 or go online and get a free quote at bobsimpson.org. Stay protected with your good neighbor, Bob Simpson.
Traffic brought to you by 901 Eats to Go, 3135 Kirby Witten Road in Berkeley. Pick up or ask Uber Eats or online at 901eats.com. Eats with the Z. Good food fast.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good morning. There's still some volume trying to get down the interstate here on 40 westbound between Germantown Parkway and Sycamore View Road. Still busy right now coming over from West Memphis on the I-40 bridge and also on the 55 bridge. Busy but moving up through South Haven on 55 northbound all the way up there into South Memphis as you come past Brooks and Elvis Presley. Hey, if your lawn needs a little bit of help this time of the year, your solution is Lawn Solution. Over 30 years experience. Call Lawn Solutions right now at 867-5626 or go online, lawnsolutionsinc.net. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studios, we are Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis. Now back to Sports 56 Mornings on Sports 56. This hour brought to you by Jenkins Tools. Once again, broadcasting.
9 o'clock, straight up. Hour 3 of the program. Greg Gaston, Eli Savoy, Elijah Seegers with you, broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studios. Family Leisure, it's where family and fun come together. The floor model sale continues at 2120 Witten Road, just north of I-40. Currently 41 degrees, going to get up to 60 today, sunshine and plenty of it. Tonight, a few passing clouds, but 40 degrees for a low. That's not too bad. And then tomorrow, even warmer. Talking about 63 with some sun, a little bit of clouds rolling in late. Then Thursday, 65, but a lot of rain in the forecast, 91% right now. Chance for precip on Thursday. Hour 3 of the program is brought to you by the great folks at Jenkins Floors and More. If you're looking for flooring, you're looking for carpeting, you're looking for porcelain and granite tiles and ceramic and backsplashes for your kitchens and bathrooms and plantation shutters and blinds and all that great stuff, they have it for you and they sell it wholesale. So why wouldn't you go to Jenkins? Top of the line material. They sell it wholesale right to the consumer, so they skip that middleman. They're located at 2356 Goodman Road in Horn Lake. They also have stores in Cleveland, Mississippi, in Little Rock, Arkansas, and they can take care of the job for you. If you can't do it yourself, you're a homeowner, but you let the professionals put in the flooring and carpeting. Some homeowners want to do it themselves, and again, it makes sense to get your material from Jenkins. But for those who can't, like myself, you call Jenkins Floors and More. They'll come to you. They'll give you a free estimate. They'll get the job done in unheard of 2-week turnaround. That's their promise to you. Also, for all you Sports 56 listeners, ask about your family discount. Military, first responders, you get 10% off. They're open Monday through Saturday. Call them. Ask about everything they have to offer. Tell them you heard it here on Sports 56 Mornings. 662-469-9350. That's 662-469-9350. Or again, visit them in Horn Lake at 2356 Goodman Road. It's Jenkins Floors and More. All right, so last night, for those who have watched it, you know what it's all about. For those who have not, tomorrow Golf League was something put together by Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, and some others. And it uses basically a golf simulator, but it's more than just that. And it's not everybody's cup of tea. I think it's okay. I wanted to watch last night, but I had to run around and do some things for the fam, so I wasn't able to, but I saw some of the highlights. And we finally, Eli, had one that went to the wire and then some.
Yeah, I had to go to overtime last night. You know, the Boston team was a massive favorite, but Jupiter Golf League or golf, what are their golf club? What are they?
Jupiter Golf League.
Links. I think it's Jupiter Golf Links.
Oh, is it Links?
Maybe. I can't remember what they go exactly by, but they pulled off a massive upset. Tom Kim was unbelievably good. Made every single putt, almost hold a bunker shot to win it on the last hole. He was absolutely incredible. Kevin Kisner was way better than he was the first time. You can actually make the argument Tiger probably was the worst player on their team last night. But they pulled out a win. They were able to get it done in overtime. The way they do the overtime is they pick a spot, and it was like 45 yards or something. They do a closest to the pin, and it's the best out of 3. And if it had gone to the third, it was going to be Tiger versus Rory to decide it. But Tiger's team won the first 2, so he and Rory did not have to hit in that. It was over, and they bounced back, got a big win.
Yeah, best out of 3, not meaning the individuals take 3 shots and it's your best 2 out of 3. They each take 1 shot, but like you said, they're paired off. It would have been nice to see it come down to Rory and Tiger, but really cool that they finally had a competitive match. The Boston team with Rory, with Adam Scott, Keegan Bradley, and Big Papi. Big Papi was a member of that team. Inspirational talk. It didn't work, though.
He's one of the owners. Mike Trout, one of the owners of Tiger's team. He was there. They had a lot of stars in the building last night.
I didn't know Mike Trout was part of that ownership. But anyway, I wonder how much it cost to own one of those teams. It can't cost that much, can it?
I have no idea what they are invested in. I know there's a lot of people with a lot of money that are a part of it. So
yeah, you're investing into the prize pool, right?
It doesn't matter to most of the people who are those owners how much it costs, because they certainly can afford it. We had Tiger take a shot clock violation last night, which I don't know what the hell he was doing. Like, he was taking forever to putt. Like, you could just call a timeout. But like Tiger.
So what happened to him for when you get the violation? What happens?
He lost. Well, it's a stroke penalty, and
It's
lost
a
the hole.
stroke penalty. Was he mad?
He had no reaction to it. Like, it was like thinking, like, he did it. It wasn't like he was like, "Oh gosh, I thought I had enough time." I mean, he just walked away. Like, he actually then putted it after the buzzer went off, and he missed it. I don't know if it, and he had to make the putt to tie the hole anyway. But he had Tiger had a bunker shot that he left in the bunker again. He missed. I think it felt like the only putt they missed all night was one that Tiger missed. Now, he did make another key putt, but Tom Kim made everything, and Kevin Kisner actually made a huge putt. But I'm like you could say Tiger was the worst of their 3 players. Kim was by far the best player last night. It wasn't even close. He almost made a hole in one. And then again, made every putt that he looked at. And then he almost made the bunker shot that would have won the match on the last hole. But after he had left the bunker shot in the bunker, then almost makes the next one. But there was people making putts from everywhere. It was last night was fun.
You really love this stuff, don't you?
It's entertaining, because it's 2 hours of golf. It's not
2 hours of fake golf.
It's not. No, they're playing golf. I don't know. It's yes, they're using a simulator, but the stuff around the greens, they're playing golf. They're hitting a golf ball. They're not. I don't know. That's playing golf. You're hitting a golf ball. That's playing golf.
I don't know. You're being lenient with that description. It looked 31.
If they're not playing golf, what are they doing?
They're playing. It's like putt simulator. I don't know.
No, because they're hitting golf balls with drivers and full irons, and they're playing. I don't know how much more you can play golf.
You can actually go out there on a golf course. It is. What's cool about it is that I always like kind of the team setup, the competition, the owners, the celebrities that are there. The arena that was built for this is really cool. The fact that they're playing music and they're loud. I think Matt Berry's a really good host. All that I love. That's why I like it. I haven't watched I missed it last night, and I haven't watched every second of the other ones. I don't dislike it, but I'm not doing somersaults over it. And that was cool to see. Again, I didn't see it live. I saw it on the highlights that were on Twitter with Adam Scott making that 31-footer, which was really cool. I like also how they get pumped up. They're fired up. These guys are multi-millionaires. I mean, all these guys are. And they're just getting fired up for it because it's the camaraderie with their teammates, but it's the competition. So anything that's competitive, I like. That's why, well, I shouldn't say that everything that's competitive I like, because I don't like the competition that'll be happening this weekend in flag football for the Pro Bowl. I'm not going to watch that. I couldn't care less about that. Or the competition, so-called competition of an NBA All-Star game. I'm not going to get into that. This thing's different. They're competitive. The juicers are flowing. But again, you're hitting into a screen. Yeah, you are doing your chips and your putts. But it may not be everybody's cup of tea. I think it's okay. You love it. There's probably others out there that wouldn't waste
I've never said that I love it.
You don't love it?
I'm entertained by it. And if
you watch every second, you love it.
I love the pace of it.
Oh, I love the pace, too.
I love the fact that they play in 2 hours and it goes a little over 2 hours. Like last night's went a little long or whatever. But
it went overtime.
Generally, it's about a 2 hour window. I love the pace of play in it, and it entertains me.
I'm still shocked that Tiger had a penalty for shot clock violation, because every time I've watched, I've never even seen it get close. These dudes are up there, boom, they hit it. But anyway, so what's coming up next? Is there one next week? Because I know one of these weeks they have 2 or 3 of them. You have any idea?
Next week, I know Rory's team plays again. I think it's on Monday night. I know President's Day is the triple header.
President's Day is the triple header. When's President's Day?
Mid-February.
Mid-February. Okay. That's when we honor Martin Van Buren. All right, so let's go back to our lead, the Grizzlies and the Knicks last night in New York. The Grizzlies went 4-0 in Memphis last week at FedEx Forum. Perfect. Beat a good, solid Minnesota team on Monday, and then destroyed really bad teams in Charlotte, New Orleans, and Utah. And then they go to New York. So I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and speculate. I don't know if they went out on the town last night. I don't know or 2 nights ago when they got there. I don't know what they did. But that wasn't the Grizzlies team we've been watching. Now, it's easy to say it's the level of competition they played. Well, if that's the case, then that would reveal that the Grizzlies may not be that good. They may be good, but not that good. Or it may have just been a bad night at the office. They'll have Houston on Thursday. They got some good competition coming up at Milwaukee. They're going to play Oklahoma City. But is there anything that was in that game that we saw that would make you concerned? That's the bigger question. Is it just one night, as Elijah said earlier, one-off, 143 to 106? Ja was a minus 41. in his plus minus. The Tigers. The Grizzlies, Freudian slip when I said Tigers, because the Grizzlies had 26 turnovers, and we've talked so many times about the Tigers and their turnovers. Well, the Grizzlies had 26 turnovers in this game. Were they being lackadaisical? I keep hearing people say on, some have texted into the show, but also on Twitter, that the effort wasn't there. Was it a lack of effort? Was New York that much better? So they're the questions I'm asking myself after you go in there. Again, not a nationally televised game, but a showcase game in the world's most famous arena. By the way, Precious Achiuwa doing some good things, the former Memphis Tiger, against the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm looking at highlights right now. But it was a laugher for the Knicks, and you hate to be on the receiving end of that.
Yeah, obviously you don't want to lose games by nearly 40 points. But, that does happen in the NBA. And, yeah, the turnovers are without question a concern because they are something that has been a problem, a repeated problem all year long that they need to figure out. Yes, they're going to turn the ball over. There's going to be extra turnovers when you're playing at the pace that they are playing at and want to play at and will continue to play at as the fastest team in the NBA. But 26 is way too many, and especially way too many when you're talking about the number of live ball turnovers that are resulting in layups at the other end. And to give up 31 fast break points, 70 points in the paint, that's you're just not going to be able to overcome that and win regularly, especially against good teams. So I don't think it's time to freak out because they got blown out by the Knicks on the road. It was also the fourth game in 6 nights. There was a lot of stuff that went into it, but that turnover number is absolutely a problem that they've got to address and figure out going forward.
Your 3 stars, Jaren Jackson Jr., John Morant, and Des Bane, combined for 14 of those turnovers.
Yeah, Bane was terrible last night. Bottom line, Desmond Bane, I don't know. He had 6 turnovers. Probably could have had a lot more. I felt like he threw 10 passes that either into the crowd or just to nobody. I don't know. Bane just looked out of sorts or something last night. It was very weird to watch Bane. That was as bad, I think, as I've ever seen him. Just taking care of the basketball stuff.
Maybe he was in awe of seeing Chris Rock and Adam Sandler. Probably Spike was there. All the stars that came out last night. I guess one positive is, and look, he was still a minus 19, but Zach Edey had nearly a double-double, which would have been his second in 3 games. He had 9 points. He had 11 rebounds. He had 4 of 8 from the field. 6 offensive rebounds. So not bad. For Edey, again, just numbers. I'm just looking at the numbers.
No, if you look the Grizzlies didn't shoot the ball poorly. They shot 45%. They shot 37% from 3-point range. They were 15 of 17 at the free throw line. The overall rebounding number, they out-rebounded the Knicks. It wasn't this horrendous thing other than the turnovers, and then on the defensive end, they just never got any stops.
True, but
because you gave up the 36 points off turnovers plus 28 second chance points. So even when the Knicks missed, they were getting rebounds and scoring on those second chance opportunities seemingly every time.
Yeah, no, you're right. But that starting lineup, and we know that the Grizzlies have 2 rookies in their starting lineup, and their 3 best players, Jackson, Bane, and Morant. I think of Wells and Edey. Their starting lineup, the Knicks, 2 are already on the All-Star team. I don't know if anybody else will be added. I doubt it, but 2 are starters. So Mikal Bridges, who Memphis was trying to get from the Nets, goes to New York. He was a plus 43. OG Anunoby, who I absolutely love, he was a plus 41. Karl Anthony Towns, and right now the Knicks are smiling with the biggest smile after fleecing the Timberwolves in that trade. He had 23 points and 11 rebounds. Sorry, he had 24 points. He was a plus 23. Jalen Brunson was only a plus 14. But he had 20 points, 8 of 14 from the field, 6 assists. Josh Hart, plus 18, only had 4 points, but still had 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal. Those starters combined to destroy the Grizzlies. And I know the Grizzlies are a deeper team, but their starters, even with the most electric player in John Morant, and Jaren Jackson Jr. should be an all-star, it doesn't compare to that Knicks starting five. It just doesn't. You got two rookies. Again, Wells and Edey have been fabulous. But to expect them to be able to be there and be great against the better teams consistently, especially when you get to the playoffs and there's a series, that's a lot to ask for. And the Knicks bench isn't too bad. It's not as good as the Grizzlies. But Precious Achiuwa, the former Tiger, 14 points, 3 rebounds, 4 steals, 2 blocks, 1 assist.
One nasty dunk.
One really nasty dunk. Cameron Payne, Memphian. He was a plus 17 in 16 minutes. He was a plus 17. 11 points, 3 rebounds, an assist, a steal. Yeah, maybe just one of those nights. But I still look at their record against the better teams. I know they have a win over Boston, which was a really good win over Boston. But I wish it was better because there's always a little bit of a concern when they play the better teams that they're going to struggle. Another opportunity Thursday night when they play the Rockets. They've had battles with the Rockets. Rockets have gotten the better of them so far. They've had battles. And, of course, the Rockets last night winning in Boston and winning in dramatic fashion.
Yeah, it's their last chance to get a win against Houston during the regular season. They've been close. They've had leads, but they have faltered at the end of all 3 games against Houston. So Thursday, it would be nice to at least salvage 1 game in that season series. You know, Dylan Brooks made 10 threes last night. So I would assume he'll come in fully confident and ready to fire away, which usually is a good thing for the opponent. Last night it was not good for Boston that he was ready to fire away. But Houston is now, or is the team you're directly in front of you that you're chasing. Obviously, you know you've already lost the tiebreaker to them because they've won the first 3 games. So you can't. The tiebreaker is over. But it would be nice to get 1 game, and it'll be a late night at FedEx Forum Thursday night with that 8:30 tip-off. But it's national TV, TNT, so you certainly don't want to come out and fall flat on your face like you did last night on a TNT game against one of your division and conference rivals. That would not look real good for the national audience out there. But I would assume that with a couple of days off, that the Grizzlies will come out and look a lot better Thursday night than what they looked last night.
I would think so.
On their home court. A little bit of rest, all of that other stuff, I think will go a long way. But again, there's no doubt they have to figure out the turnover situation. If you're going to turn it over 26 times,
you have no chance.
You're literally no chance to beat basically anybody in the NBA turning it over 26 times, especially giving up 36 points off of those.
I wonder where that ranks this year as far as an individual team and the amount of turnovers in a game. I mean, I can't imagine there's too many teams. There's too many instances where there's more than 26 turnovers by an NBA team. It's just, when I saw that number, it's eye-popping. Like, I can see a college team turning it over 26 times, but an NBA team 26 times?
Folks, if you've got a move coming up, that can be stressful for you, but that's only if you do it yourself. Try and get your friends to help you. That's when it becomes stressful. If you get the professionals from Black Tie Moving, well, a lot less stress involved, that's for sure, because you could trust the folks at Black Tie to take care of your belongings, make sure they're getting where they're supposed to be without any issues, without any problems. You could focus on other things and not have to worry about that. That's why you should always go with the professionals. Don't try and do it yourself. And the right professionals are those from Black Tie Moving. 901 316-6196, or you can go to blacktiemoving.com/Memphis. Talk to the folks at Black Tie. Work with them. They work with you, coming up with a plan for that move that fits your needs and your budget, and you'll get a no-obligation quote up front so you know exactly what it's going to cost. Don't take all that stress on yourself. Get the professionals from Black Tie Moving at 901-316-6196.
You're tuned in to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11 here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
When you're working outdoors, unpredictability is the norm, so take on the toughest jobs with the 2025 Honda Pioneer 7. This rugged side-by-side is powered in any party with a reliable tool for towing and smooth shifting for trails, and you can choose between 3 trails: standard, plus, or the Trim Timber First Edition. Ultimate Outdoors Adventures is the 2025 Honda Pioneer 700 today at the Center Honda, 5657 Mill Road in Old
Hi, fellas. I'm Bill Russell at Russell Brothers Fine Jewelers, and I want to thank all of you who came to see us at Russell Brothers last month so that Christmas would be very special for your lady. I thank you for the confidence and trust that so many of you have placed in Russell Brothers over 40 years, and we are going to work even harder in 2025 to let you know how important you are. Whether it's a $10 battery or a $10,000 diamond, you can be sure you will receive the very best in beauty, quality, service, and value. Our exquisite gemstones, our fashionable designs, our huge array of fine jewelry will dazzle her and will help make you a hero. When you want to let her know how very extraordinary she is, we invite you to come see us at Russell Brothers Jewelers, 4646 Poplar at Perkins, or visit us at russellbrothersfinejewelers.com. After all, gentlemen, doesn't she deserve the very best?
This hour brought to you by James Flores and once again, Greg
We talked college football earlier with Connor O'Gara, and really the college football season, like I said, is never over. Well, there's all-star games this week, so it really isn't over. We have the national championship game, but Thursday we have the Shrine Bowl, where I know Mario Anderson for Memphis is participating. There may be some other Tigers. I'm not sure. But Mario Anderson, I know. I saw photos of him. It was really cool. And then Saturday is the Senior Bowl. And Seth Hennigan is involved in that game. So several Tigers looking to shine, one at the Shrine and one at the Senior Bowl. But again, there might be some other Tigers, I think, involved in these bowl games. I know that Anderson was the offensive MVP of the Hula Bowl. So it's his second All-Star game.
Multiple-time All-Star.
Yeah, look, does Mario have a shot? Yes, I think he does. I mean, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he is compact and strong. Has that, I think, a little deceiving breakaway speed. Not a burner, you wouldn't say a burner, but a guy who can certainly put it into another gear. And then I'll be real interested to see what Seth's doing. Obviously, a lot of NFL components to the Senior Bowl with coaches from NFL teams, with scouts from the NFL all over there, whether it's practice or whether it's the game, taking a look at you, examining what they may have in you. And again, nobody believes Seth will be a high draft pick, and who knows where he'll go, but I think he'll be a draft pick. I think he'll go somewhere. You don't look at a guy who's had 4 years of starting college games and doing a really good job consistently for 4 years, putting up really good numbers. I mean, really good numbers, astronomical numbers to some degree, and good size. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he has a strong arm. He's not the fastest, but he still can be elusive and run, and he proved that. So I think he's a late pick by somebody, a 6th, 7th round. It's interesting. Maybe a team will take a shot at him a little bit earlier, but I think he'll be a draft pick. But I'm not going to sit here and bet on it because you never know with quarterbacks and the National Football League. Some may just want to look at undrafted free agents, bring them into camps and things of that nature, as opposed to using a pick on one late in the draft.
Yeah, I think he has a decent chance of being picked, but regardless of whether he's picked or not, he's going to get an opportunity to go somewhere, whether it's as a draft pick or an undrafted free agent. He'll get a shot to go to a camp and try and earn a spot on a depth chart somewhere in the NFL. Man, maybe it's a practice squad for a year or two or whatever, but certainly think that he's got a great opportunity to make money playing football for quite some time.
Yeah, and when you get late in the draft, sometimes it's not the agent's call, right? It's what a team wants to do. But sometimes you get in that 7th round and you're going, I'd rather not be picked. I'd rather be able to negotiate to a team that may need a quarterback more than another team, that may draft me just for whatever. I mean, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason why teams draft certain players and certain positions. But again, when you don't get drafted, if you're not going to go in the 4th, 5th round or earlier, then maybe it's better to be an undrafted free agent. And again, maybe pick your destination, at least where you're going to have the opportunity to try and make a team.
Well, yeah, if you can look at places that don't have, a deep quarterback room, and there might be an opportunity to be a 3rd quarterback or something like that, rather than somebody who may already have 3 but drafts you to come in and compete. Yeah, I mean, they're certainly handpicking your destination can be better, but when they do draft you, at least that there's something about you that they really like and are willing to at least use a draft pick on you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So again, you got the Shrine game on Thursday. You got the Senior Bowl on Saturday. You got the Pro Bowl activities starting, Thursday, for those who care? And then the flag football game is Saturday or Sunday?
The Pro Bowl games, I think the flag football game is on, and the football game itself is on Sunday, I believe, the final.
I know yesterday they announced replacements for the Pro Bowlers from both Philadelphia and Kansas City. I don't know if these players, I assume there's a cash component in making a Pro Bowl, whether it be a stipulation in your contract or whatever the case may be. So you're gracious enough to want to do that. Free trip for you and the family, and I guess you have fun. Some players may just want to get the hell out of Dodge. Their season is done. They're done. But I guess it's a reward. But the days of the game that was played, used to be played in Hawaii, long gone. Ain't coming back.
The skills challenge are Thursday night, and the flag football, there is some skills challenges on Sunday as well, I guess, and then the flag football game, the final, on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, again, does nothing for me. Is that something you'll watch?
I watched it last year. Thursday night. What else is? The Grizzlies will be playing, but they play late. Tigers will be playing. They play late, so I'll probably watch. I don't know what they start at 6:00. So yeah, I'll probably watch the stuff Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday night will be a quietly good sports night for local sports fans, right?
The dodgeball's fun. They got some new games this year.
Tic-tac-toe? Connect Four? Monopoly?
The punter one, the Punt Perfect one, which is one I'm actually...
Punt Perfect, what do they do?
I'm looking forward to that one, but they're not doing that one until Sunday. That's not on Thursday night.
Man, you're looking forward to it. But no, Thursday night with the Tigers playing in New Orleans against Tulane, the Grizzlies playing Thursday, home to the Rockets. and your stupid Pro Bowl stuff. So it should be a pretty good night. Tonight, college basketball, top 25 action. Kentucky and Tennessee go at it at Thompson Bowling. Kentucky lost the game at Vanderbilt over the weekend on Saturday. Tennessee, earlier this year, lost at Vanderbilt. Tennessee's interesting. It seems like against the better teams, there's been a little bit of a struggle. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I have to look at their complete schedule. But a couple of those games, the Kai Ziegler, if he's not going, they're not going. There's just something when I watch Tennessee this year that they're missing. Even though they're good. I know they're good and I know they're capable. Maybe it's Dalton Connect. But Tennessee, Kentucky, Thompson Bowling should be a fun game tonight.
Well, it's another one where with Tennessee, you've got the best, or if not the best, certainly one of the top 2 or 3 best defensive teams in the country, and they get to go against another very high-powered offense. Kentucky, one of the best offensive teams in the country. So it's 2 teams that do it opposite ways. Kentucky great on the offensive end, not so great on the defensive end. Tennessee great on the defensive end, not so great on the offensive end. So, Tennessee did an unbelievable job against Auburn in holding them the way they did. And again, Auburn, one of the best, actually the number 1 offense in the country, according to KenPom. And Tennessee was able to hold them to 53 points, but they were only able to get 51. So, can they hold Kentucky down like that? If you hold Kentucky down like that, you'd expect to beat them because Kentucky is not nearly as good defensively as what Auburn is. But yeah, this is a test here in this little stretch for Tennessee, and that when you've got the number 1 defense in America, but you're playing some of these offenses, and now if you lose tonight, you'd have lost 3 out of 4. They've got Florida coming up on Saturday, so it doesn't get any easier. So this becomes, with these 2 games at home this week, Kentucky and Florida, 2 really good teams, both at Knoxville. 2 important games for Tennessee.
Vegas feels really confident, I imagine, that Tennessee at home is going to take care of business. They've been installed as a 10.5-point favorite for this game. The total is 147.5. So the contrasting styles, that would basically put you at a couple points under 75, like average per team 75. So that would be more favoring Tennessee. And that's why the 10.5-point spread for Tennessee. So that's one.
Well, and Kentucky's lost back-to-back games, so they're trying to avoid. So either Tennessee will have lost 3 out of 4, or Kentucky will have lost 3 in a row by the end of the night. So it's obviously important for both of these teams as they're looking and thinking about high seeds and where they're going to fall in a bracket. For Kentucky, obviously being on the road would be a much bigger win for them, but Tennessee can't afford a home loss.
No, that's a great point. Not only the ultimate seeding in the NCAA tournament, but where you're going to be seeded in the SEC tournament. So, yeah, in a drop of a hat, you can drop 6 spots in the SEC. You lose a few games, you could drop like a rock. You also got Oklahoma at Texas A&M. It's a big game for Porter Moser's team. Can they pull one off on the road? It's going to be tough. But A&M, they got to be stinging after what happened at Texas. After blowing a 22-point lead in the second half.
Yeah, I would assume that Buzz was not an easy practice yesterday or the day before as they got back to work. Probably not real happy with the way things went in the second half of that game.
You think Buzz was sweating a little bit on Saturday?
I'm sure he was, because, well, if he just wakes up in the morning, I'm pretty sure he's drenched.
Elsewhere tonight, top 25, St. John's at Georgetown. Don't tell me a coach doesn't make a difference. And Rick Pitino, what is he now, 70-something? Turned St. John's around. They're 15th ranked in the country. Ed Cooley's got Georgetown at 13-7. They're not a great team. They might not make the NCAA tournament, but they're a competitive team now. Unfortunately, under Patrick Ewing, they were a joke. So these coaches are making the difference. This guy jumps from Providence to Georgetown. What's his second year, I think, for Cooley? And all of a sudden, now they're a very competitive team. Rick Pitino, second year at St. John's, 17-3. You got Wake Forest at Louisville tonight. Again, Louisville makes that change. Kenny Payne was terrible. They bring in, who was it, Kelsey?
Yes.
And look at the turnaround for Louisville. They're 15-5. They are ranked number 21. You got Minnesota at Michigan State tonight. Michigan State's been on a roll. They're now 17-2. One of those losses coming to the Memphis Tigers. Kansas and UCF. Kansas, after blowing that game to Houston in double overtime, playing at home against the Golden Knights, and Kansas a 14.5-point favorite in that one. And then I think Marquette at Butler. Butler's not great, but at home they're much better. Marquette a 7.5-point favorite. That's a team led by Cam Jones, the Memphian, who I don't think a lot of people are talking about them. Shaka Smart is a terrific coach. Didn't get it done the way he needed to at Texas, but 17-3 is Marquette. So they are good. They were good last year. But I think tonight they might get a little challenge there from Butler. Again, 7.5-point favorites are Marquette on the road.
The Athletic, it was the Athletic yesterday, had their mid-season All-American team. They did have P.J. Haggerty and Cam Jones. So you had the Memphian and the guy at the University of Memphis, both on their mid-season All-American team.
Just one team, 5 players?
Mm-hmm.
Who were the other 3? Broom, Flag,
and who the heck else was there on there? Broom, Flag, Jones, Haggerty. It wasn't Dixon.
Was it Davis from Carolina?
Braden Smith from
Purdue.
They did have a second team, actually. They have Mark Sears, Javon Small from West Virginia, Eric Dixon of Villanova, Hunter Dickinson, and Chaz Lanier as their second team.
All right. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and our last segment, we'll be talking NFL. We'll be talking Super Bowl with Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman. You're tuned in to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Consumer example, stock number RZ307440, MSRP 82085, dealer discount 7425, purchase allowance 2750, sale price 71910, expires 3325.
The big game is almost here, and it's your last chance to get in on the action. Don't miss out on the final football game of the season with Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on the big game. The app is really simple to use. Pick 2 or more players across any sport. Pick more or less on their projection, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Join Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, available to play in more than 40-plus states, including California and Texas. Join now because Prize Picks is giving away a free pick for the big game, where a quarterback will only need to throw 1 yard to win. Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on the big game. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code THROW, that's code THROW, on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code THROW on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Win or lose, you'll get $50 for just playing, guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Classic style meets modern design in your new Volkswagen from Gossett Volkswagen on the Pike. Take your pick from 2025 Jetta Sport or 2024 Volkswagen Taos SE. Get yours for $249 a month. Gossett Volkswagen on the Pike says come get 2024 Tiguan S or 2025 Jetta SE, now $279 a month. Plus all 2024 Atlas SEL Peak Editions, $5,000 off MSRP. So get to Gossett Volkswagen today, 1875 Covington Pike, online, GossettVWMemphis.com. And remember, no reasonable offer will be refused. Gossett's where we're charging forward and charging less every day. If you want it, we got it at Gossett Volkswagen. 7,500 miles. Jetta Sport SMO 45898. MSRP 25416. Taos SE RMO 56983. MSRP 31939. T1S RM 144,331. MSRP 31363. Jetta SE SMO 10792. MSRP 28321. Atlas 3500 bonus customer cash 1500 DASA discount excludes tax on the license, includes all rebates and incentives. P of 695 with approved credit. Well qualified buyer. Offer valid through end of the month.
Now back to Sports 56 mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour brought to you by Jenkins Floors and More. Here once again, our great guest and Gus.
Welcome back, everybody. Tomorrow on the program, Jerry Palm will get his latest bracketology. 8:25, 9:05. We'll talk Grizzlies with DeMichael Cole, and then we'll talk Memphis Tigers hoops with Parth Upadhyay at 9:25. In just a moment, Ross Tucker is going to join us. His annual visit to talk Super Bowl and other stuff as well. The Chiefs, 1.5-point favorites. That line came out immediately after the championship games were over. It has not fluctuated. Of course, there's plenty of time. We got a couple of weeks before the Super Bowl is concerned, but nothing has really changed as far as that line is concerned. The total at 49.5, but Kansas City, 1.5-point favorite. It's, this is interesting. I say, everybody asked me along the way with the playoffs, especially with this championship game that we just had, what do you think? I said, well, I'd like to see new blood. I'd like to see Josh Allen and Buffalo get in and then go on and win a Super Bowl, which they were denied 4 times in a row in the 90s. But how can you bet against Patrick Mahomes? And the other game, I said, I think Philadelphia's just much better than Washington because of what they can do with the offensive line and the defense line in the trenches. And now I'll be asked about the Super Bowl, and I feel like I'm going to back away from what I've always said. How do you bet against Mahomes? Until the king is knocked off his throne, it's hard to bet against them. But I just think it might be the Eagles' time because of the offensive line and that defensive line. Although, who was it? Somebody came out yesterday, it might have been Cowherd on our network, that said he doesn't think the Eagles will get past the 50-yard line. What? Are you crazy? The Chiefs' defense is good. Spagnuolo is a great defensive coordinator. Great, one of the all-time greats. But Hurts proved last weekend that he can play. He's not banged up as much as people thought with the knee. And then you have Saquon, plus A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard, who is a go-to for Hurts. So, again, we'll talk a lot about this as we get closer and closer to the big game, which will be 2 weeks from this past Sunday. But I don't know. I'm starting to lean, which will be, again, go against what I always say about Mahomes. And it's very hard to do that.
Well, the whole thing, it's it comes down to if you're playing the Eagles, how do you stop Saquon? How do you stop the run overall? That will be the biggest challenge, and a couple of weeks to try and come up with that plan for Spagnuolo and company to try and slow them down some way, because we haven't seen anybody really be able to do it so far.
No, I think that's going to be the story, the game within the game, as they say. Kansas City doesn't have this potent rushing attack, but they have enough. They have enough guys, and then with Mahomes' ability, and I should have seen that one coming. I loved Kansas City in that game, but as far as prop plays, you could have got good odds playing Mahomes for a touchdown, let alone 2. And you just got to think in the postseason, especially, this guy's going to lay it out on the line. And he didn't run as much during the season, but then he was going to run a lot more. And when they converged on him and that pocket broke down, he just took off and did some incredible damage in that game against Buffalo. Mahomes was vintage Mahomes. People say, he didn't have that great a year, but you saw what he did in the playoffs. That's what he does. Without further ado, we love having Ross on every year to talk about the big game. Former NFL offensive lineman, host of the Ross Tucker podcast. You hear him on CBS Sports and Westwood One and all types of other places. He's all around the globe. He is Ross Tucker. You can follow him on Twitter at Ross Tucker NFL. Ross, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Great to have you on again. I don't know how many years this has been, but we always appreciate it. We got a lot to get to. First and foremost, I would imagine that you are not surprised with the two teams that are in the big game?
No, not at all. Obviously, second time in the last 3 years. It's also second time in the last 3 years. And they might have had it last year as well. But, the Eagles have the best roster. Eagles have the best players overall, top to bottom. I think the Chiefs have still, the best quarterback and the best head coach. And so we'll see which one of those two wins out. I think when it's a close game, you really got to give it to the team with the better quarterback and the better head coach, which is why, if you're the Eagles, I don't know, easier said than done, but you got to find a way to win 2 scores considering the Chiefs have won 17 straight by 1 score. So good luck. Probably easier said than done, but find a way to win by 2 scores if you're Philly. You got to try to run them out of the building.
You mentioned the Eagles with the best player, the best roster, and they went, obviously, in the offseason, then they added Saquon Barkley to what was already a very good roster. Did you expect this type of season, this type of impact from Saquon?
No, I thought he would have a really good year because I knew they had the best offensive line. I knew the offensive line is a bunch of freaks. I think it's the most physically gifted offensive line in NFL history. I played for 5 teams, so I've been around some big dudes. I mean, these guys left to right are just insane. I mean, my lot is 6'8", 380, moves well. Dickerson, 6'6", 360, moves well. The center, Cam Jurgens, played tight end at Nebraska a couple years ago, so he's kind of a different type of freak in nature. Right guard, Mekhi Becton, 6'7.5", 365. Right tackle, Lane Johnson's like the runt of the litter at 6'6", 335 with rippled abs. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, it's banana. It really is something to behold, when you're around those guys. They are physical phenoms, and I think that they wear down the teams. I didn't know that Saquon still had this much left.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that he'd be able to take this many to the house, but it was always an interesting question, which is like, we know how fast he is. We know how explosive he is. The Giants just never really gave him a chance to get going. You know what I mean? Like they never, he didn't get a lot of room to kind of get ahead of speed. Eagles figured out, well, what would he be like if we gave him a head of speed? And I think they have figured it out in a major, major way.
Yeah, you talk about a new lease on life. Saquon certainly has that. We're joined by Ross Tucker on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest lines. Make sure to follow Ross on Twitter at Ross Tucker NFL. You beat me to the punch about the Eagles' offensive line. Obviously, you do games for Philadelphia. You played the position in the NFL, so you know it better than anybody. To me, it looks like the best offensive line by far. On the flip side, the Chiefs' offensive line has had some injuries. Is that a concern?
Well, it is, except for the fact that Joe Tooney, the Pro Bowl left guard, they moved him out to left tackle, and he's really been outstanding. I mean, he's really done a nice job out there. You can tell he's not a natural left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that in his body type, but he's smart. He has good technique. He does the right things, and he's kind of solidified that position for them, which is huge because that was a real liability, and now he's solidified that. Going to have a big test against the Eagles in that regard, but I've been super impressed with what Joe's been able to get done, no question.
With what the Chiefs have been able to accomplish now, obviously, again, you've played the game, you're around the game, you know how, it is not really set up with the cap and everything else for teams to be able to do this 5 out of 6 years. They're doing it in an era where you've got other great quarterbacks just in their conference alone in Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and yet they continue to go to the Super Bowl every year and are trying to become the first team to win 3 in a row. How do you kind of put into perspective what the Chiefs franchise is accomplishing?
Well, I mean, they're on the precipice of history. I think we all know that. Nobody's ever done what they have a chance to do in terms of winning 3 Super Bowls straight. You know, they've stayed pretty healthy this year, which I think might be the most impressive part of it to me when you consider how long their seasons have been the last couple of years, right? Like the added wear and tear. Think about the other team in the Super Bowl last year, the Niners, and how beat up they got.
Yeah.
Which makes it even more impressive what the Chiefs have done and been able to stay healthy. You know, they've also moved on from some of their best players. I mean, Tyreek Hill, they moved on from him. Certainly L'Jarius Sneed this offseason, and yet Brett Veach, their general manager, who was the state small school player of the year my senior year of high school, so he was like a legend around here in Pennsylvania. He's done a great job finding these, you know, later round guys, these diamonds in the rough that have really been able to step up and play good enough football for the Chiefs to be able to win these games. And look, when you have first ballot Hall of Fame head coach, first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback, 2 guys that, when it's all said and done, are going to be in the discussion for the best to ever do it, you know, you're off to a pretty good start there. And, oh, by the way, the tight end, too.
Yeah, not too shabby. Ross Tucker joining us here on the program. Well, you wear many hats, Ross. You're a busy man, but also there's something that you brought to everyone's attention last year when you joined us. It's called myfrontpagestory.com. We got Valentine's Day right around the corner. I thought when you talked about this last year, this was about as unique of a gift that you can get. Can you explain to everybody what this is all about and how they can go ahead and take that next step to go ahead and purchase?
Yeah, I mean, not to get, you know, too sentimental or mushy or anything, but I just, life is short. Make sure the people in life that you care about know how you feel about them. In particular, your significant other for Valentine's Day. I know so many guys just get flowers or take them out to dinner or whatever. I think it's really cool and really important to change it up on them every once in a while, right? And myfrontpagestory.com, easily the best Valentine's Day gift I've ever heard of. You literally talk to one of their writers for like 10 minutes while you're driving home from work or whatever, or you can fill out an email question. They write this unbelievable story about your significant other, your wife, how amazing she is, pictures. Looks like it's on the cover of the newspaper. It's framed. It's beautiful. Just being able to say to her, honey, I want to do something special for you this year. I had a story written about you. Like, that sounds absolutely incredible. Then she actually reads it and the quotes from you and maybe the kids. And, man, they cry almost every time. It's unbelievable. There's just something about them reading this story that someone wrote about them that makes them cry. And then I love the fact that it's framed and you can have it hanging up in the house forever. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. Myfrontpagestory.com, myfrontpagestory.com.
It's one of the times where you're really trying to make them cry. And it's a good thing if they do.
Happy tears.
It's so unique. It's just a really cool gift. Again, myfrontpagestory.com. All right, give us a pick.
You know, I do think it's going to be a close game. And if it's going to be a close game, I don't know how you don't pick the Chiefs, right? I mean, as good as the Eagles are, close game, I think you got to go with the more proven quarterback, the more proven head coach. So feels to me something like 27-24. The Chiefs win. If you're the Eagles, I think you got to try to do whatever you can to win this thing by 2 scores and play keep away a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, if it is a close game, you would be dumb to try to really go against the Chiefs at this point. Whatever it is, you just got to believe they're going. If it's a close game, they figure out ways to win them.
Yep, I think you're exactly right. I do a betting podcast called the Even Money Betting Podcast, very popular. And my co-host today said that, you know, the odds to win 17 straight one-score games is 1 in 125,000. So that puts in perspective just how crazy impressive what they've done has been. 1 in 125,000. It's crazy.
Yeah, and, maybe finally Patrick Mahomes will come through on Super Bowl Sunday. The guy just, he continues to struggle. He's Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, host of the Ross Tucker podcast, the betting podcast he talked about, CBS Sports Westwood One football analyst. You can follow him on Twitter at Ross Tucker NFL. And again, go to myfrontpagestory.com. Ross, thank you so much. Enjoy the big game.
My pleasure. Great talking with you guys.
Same here. Always good to have Ross on. And this is a really cool idea. You want something completely unique, something different. That's the way to go. myfrontpagestory.com. Well, a lot more over the course of the rest of this week and next week as far as guests and conversations leading up to Super Bowl 59. Again, the rematch from Super Bowl 57 with the Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. And he does games for the Eagles, but he's smart. It's hard to go against the Chiefs, especially in those single possession games. It comes down to the wire. They usually find a way. That's going to do it for us today. I want to thank Connor O'Gara and Ross Tucker for joining us on the program. Again, tomorrow, Jerry Palm will join us. His latest bracketology. We'll talk Grizzlies with DeMichael Cole and Parthu Pajai on the University of Memphis Tigers men's basketball team. We started off bright and early at 7 a.m. Sports 56, or Waldo and Friends on Sports 56, is coming up next, so stay tuned for that. For Eli Savoy and for Elijah Seegers, I'm Greg Gaston. Have a great day, everybody.